developing a discharge trial plan and monitoring program. And I understand that that's been a thorn in Director Trapp's side for a while. So I'm really pleased with that outcome, and the team are working forward in regards to ensuring that that happens. Do you have any, maybe you would like to, so maybe the General Manager or Director Trapp would like to add to that?
Through you, Mayor, just to add, in other cases we have followed up with other ministers in writing with a copy of briefing papers for them, and will continue until we receive a response.
No, I appreciate that, Mayor. I think the outcome for the Cullenbullen sewage plant is long overdue. It's going to save us some money because we're not going to be bringing in material to Lithgow for treatment. So it's a great outcome.
We've got a long way to go to make sure that it happens, and I know that Director Trapp is working very hard to ensure that that goes through. Director Trapp, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's been a pretty long road to actually get to this point, but it's an excellent result that we're working on currently with the team, trying to put in place that plan. So we can look at a number of options, not just environmental discharge, but recycling the water to be able to use for some environmental benefit along the way and in that area. So it'll be a very good result at the end.
Any further comments on the merit? Yes, Councillor Marnie.
Just firstly, thank you, Mayor, for taking forward a host of really important issues. Just want to touch on the Cullenbullen sewer treatment plant. It's described as a thorn in the side of Mr. Trapp. Seeing that will probably be transferred to the site of Mr. Edgecombe, just given the transport of tankers into Portland and the impact that's had on the road. Is there, and sorry, this question without notice, is there any proposed restoration of that impact?
Director Trapp?
And I'm happy to take it on notice. I
appreciate that. Do you have a response?
We'll take that on notice.
Take it on notice.
Okay, come back to you on that. So we have spoken with residents previously about that, and through the process, trying to make sure that we do get a good and full understanding of what damage that road may have taken on during that time period. The road certainly had some more traffic due to the restrictions we've had on the SDP, but we'll make that assessment and then be able to have a better informed piece of information for the council.
Okay.
You happy with that, Councillor?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Right. Any further commentary? No, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. The next one I've got is Fire and Rescue Portland 423. Time is of the essence when saving lives. Currently, the distance from, I'll move the recommendation, which is that Council writes to the Minister for Emergency Service, Jihad Dib, on behalf of Fire and Rescue Portland 423, recommending that they are utilised as a resource in time-critical accidents to administer first aid and defibrillation prior to the arrival of a New South Wales ambulance. So currently, the distance from Lithgow to Portland is approximately 20 to 25 kilometres. Despite being able to drive under lights and sirens, the delay from Lithgow to Portland still presents a delay in potentially life-saving treatment for Portland residents. The Fire and Rescue Portland have the capabilities and can be on the scene to administer initial life-saving treatments, providing early defibrillation, oxygen resuscitation, and reducing rescuer fatigue, to provide high-quality CPR or supportive treatment until a New South Wales ambulance can take over. Portland Fire and Rescue have an average alert to Code 1, which is the time that the staff are paged to the time the truck is out the door of the station, so roughly 5 minutes and 57 seconds. Team 423 is not seeking to become community's first responders. They want to be utilised as a resource to then delay in distance that currently exists for ambulance to get on the scene. So they want to bridge it. Team 423 explained to me at the Portland Light, the Christmas tree event on 30th of November 2025, that they are passionate about their community and want to bridge the gap with a service level agreement within the Memorandum of Understanding under the LEMC, or alternatively, this proposal could be met through education to local New South Wales ambulance resources around the capabilities New South Wales, Portland have been able to bridge the initial delay in potential life care when a cardiac arrest occurs. They've attended a number of accidents, and this is truly an opportunity to save our residents' lives because delay is of the essence. Yes, Councillor Fredericks.
From my understanding, when it comes to medical emergencies, if it's not an accident, that automatically goes through Ambulance New South Wales, gets dispatched straight to them. So whilst I'm all for this, because it will be beneficial, is it possible for us to do some advocacy with Ryan Parks to see if we can get another ambulance station set up in Portland to service further out that way if wait times are that issue?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we'll add that to the list if you like. Add it to our advocacy shopping list if you're happy with that. So we'll note that we write to also Minister Ryan Parks about a second ambulance station in Portland. Yep. We can only ask. They can only say no. But we'll add it to our shopping list.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes, Councillor Goodwin.
There are also Good Sam's messages that get sent out to people who have signed up to the Good Sam's app, who have specialist skills, who are around the area. So if something does happen, those the messages would get sent out. And also Fire Rescue 483 at Wallerawang would also get turned out if something major happens and the 423 aren't available as well.
So would you like to add something, Councillor Goodwin?
No, just
you're just adding comments?
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Councillor Tyson?
No, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, about it was probably 15 to 20 years ago, there was an incident on the Back Cullen Road where an ambulance, I think it was either misdirected or didn't have the correct address, and the person passed away. At the time, I did suggest that the Portland community and other communities look at a rapid response ambulance, which exists in a number of small community towns. This is fire and rescue. I think there's probably some demarcation disputes as to who does first aid and that sort of thing, depending on who gets called out. It might be an opportunity for as you said, the Health Minister, Mr. Park, and the community in particular. If the community wants a rapid response ambulance and they're prepared to help out and do that particular service, it could be that these fire officers are also rapid response as well, because if that's what they want to do. But there's generally a vehicle and all the equipment that goes with it. So I think it's also, I'm not sure that this is going to work with the fire and rescue, but I think it's an opportunity to come back and start doing a rapid response community drive to see whether that is what the community want. I think it's what they should want because it is too far away, but it's also available for other communities. For example, Kapiti is even further out for someone out there to get that moving as well. So I'm sure the council would support it, and I'm sure the health department would support it if the community were to support it.
So would you like to add something what would you like to include?
That we write to the health minister as well in regards to establishing what are the processes for establishing a rapid response ambulance service.
So we'll make that another point. Did we get that?
Mayor Coleman, I couldn't agree more with anybody that wishes to have an ambulance in the Portland, even Wallerawang. You know, that's close proximity and towards Kapiti. But for probably 14 years, we have actually lobbied for that. Times have changed, the government's changed. There may be a way that we can get ambulance in Portland. But because it's such a small town, it is very difficult. And I think that unless we get funding to help it on its way, unfortunately, I cannot imagine it happening, but I am definitely for it occurring.
Thank you.
Just one more minute.
Yes, Councillor Goodwin.
Can I just raise that this should go through our LEMC prior to anything going to the minister? I think we should have a.
Can I just add to that? They've actually tried that. That's why they've come to me, Councillor Goodwin. They spoke to me last night and they said they've actually put a proposal to the LEMC and they're not getting any traction on it. So then they came to me. That's why I'm raising it here. So, but I'm happy to.
There's probably a reason for that.
Perhaps there is, but I'm happy to raise it with the LEMC again. But they particularly requested it come here.
I'm sure if we didn't have a endorsement from the LEMC, I don't think we'll get much traction from the government.
Perhaps not, but we can only do our best. Councillor Marty?
I won't reiterate what the councillors have said. They've expressed it well. I do note that we do have a proposition in front of us for a major residential subdivision in Portland, so there is a growing need, and the Mayor may wish to also reference the changing face of Portland as far as the population centre potentially.
Absolutely, Councillor Marnie. We can put that in the letters. If there's no further commentary, or there's no further, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move on to 2.1, Curtin Place.
Yeah, I'll move that way.
Curtin Place Childcare Facility. So, Councillor Goodwin, you're moving the recommendation on the page. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Evangelides, you're seconding that? Okay. Councillor Goodwin, you'd like to speak, please?
Mick, how wonderful is it to have a business who wants to develop in our town? They want to spend their money here, they want to employ our locals, and it will provide a much needed service. I hope it encourages others to do the same and show that Lithgow LGA is open for business.
Oh, is that it? Sorry.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. Very good. Councillor Evangelides?
Thanks, Matt. I spoke at length in the council last time it was brought up, so I'll just reiterate a few points. There's clearly a need and a desire for additional childcare facilities in our region. If our current childcare was only operating at 40%, I don't know why anyone would bother opening. So clearly, I don't know where that statistic came from. So where do we put them? On a busy street opposed to a quiet one? Industrial area? Far away from families? The reasoning for placing them in neighbourhood streets is to provide a familiar setting for children, and they are conveniently located and don't add any current congestion from highly frequented zones. From the public gallery, I've heard that it's a quiet street and a dangerous one, so I'm a bit confused about that. No matter where you go, someone will not be happy. I can assure you if the vendor went into any quiet street, knocked on doors, your action would be the same. They'd get the same level of resistance. I totally get it. No one likes change. I never think as a council that we should base our decisions on whether we might lose a court case if a rejected application is challenged. However, just in 2025, 53 childcare centres that were rejected by council, mostly over traffic, were later overturned by the Land and Environment Court. I'm sure they had their experts as well. That is a real statistic. And I mean, they've already spent money on it. That's on them. But I just think we have to consider what's important for the town as a whole, as Councillor Goodwin said. And they have met all the criteria. They have met the regulations. Parking, traffic, it's all, if it hasn't been met, it will be met. And if it's not met, they won't get approval from the authority responsible for it. The biggest problem with childcare centres are the operators. There's like 400 inquiries at the moment through poor operators. I did my research on these guys. They're an excellent operator. What's more important, having an excellent operator in town or one that's dodgy, that's in a location that no one seems to care about? So I really encourage the councillors to approve this. And, you know, just by looking at that, 53 were overturned. I think we really need to accept the reality of what this is and where it is. And it's just, like I said, no one wants them in their street. They got to go somewhere. So I urge the councillors to approve the DA.
Move an amendment.
What's your amendment?
My amendment is the development application DA 033-25 be refused as it is deemed not to be in the public interest.
That's a direct negative. You can do a foreshadow.
I'll do a foreshadow.
Foreshadow. And we'll come back to it. Councillor Tyson?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I speak against this DA. If you've lived in Lithgow for many years, Curtin Place is, you don't even know where it is. It's one of those streets that's hidden. because it's so quiet. As it was said from the public gallery, there's no footpaths. They've never asked for footpaths. They'd probably be entitled to them because people do walk through there, but there's no footpaths. It's in some ways a street that has 4 corners on it. It's always been narrow. It's just such a quiet and placid street. To bring a commercial activity into a street like Curtin Place is not in the public interest. All the reasons that were put forward by the public gallery are clearly there. What amazed me was the fact that this house is on a corner with a single driveway. I think the comment was made in the gallery that we have 3 driveways within 10 metres, and this is the middle driveway. I had a look at. I was going to try and put a picture up on Google, but in looking the street up on Google, there's actually a car that's parked on the verge on the nature strip. The reason it's parked there is because if it was parked on the street, it would cause an accident, which is the house next door. So these people that are going to be visiting this are going to be all over the street, all over the corners. I don't know how you can go up and down that driveway, no matter what you put up there. And Mr. Mitchell brought up some issues in regards to the parking on site. It's absolutely bizarre. I've got nothing against the developers or the proponents. There's nothing in regards to what they do or didn't do, but this is the wrong commercial activity in a residential street. It'd be like putting it in Marengaroo. Are we prepared to put a childcare centre in Marengaroo Fields? Because that's really what we're doing here. This is sort of like Marengaroo Fields going back 50 or 60 years. It's just absolute madness to try and think that this is what it is. There has to be better locations, more parking, more access, 85 movements coming and going. It's just not going to work in that place, not only just in Curtin Place, but in that particular residential home that it is at the moment. You can't change it to business and then put 85 and have all these movements of cars every day of the week, 50 weeks of the year. It's just, it's a recipe for disaster. There must be a better place to put this up. Surely there are others. I'm not worried about the occupancy rate in regards to what's around town, but the reality is it's a residential house. It backs onto Muscat Parade. I mean, and all those houses above it look straight over into the childcare centre. I'm not too worried about the noise, but it's just from a traffic point of view, it's absolutely bedlam coming and going in that street. Corners, parking. There'll be parking on the street. There won't be parking up and down. People walking up and down the driveway where there's traffic movement coming and backwards and forwards. It's a recipe for disaster in regards to some sort of an accident on site and in the street. And that's the reason I'll be in the public interest refusing this application. Thank you.
Councillor Fredericks.
I do have a couple of concerns with this particular proposal. One, the driveway is not big enough for 2 cars to safely pass each other. In order for it to be large enough for that to occur, it has to encroach on council-owned land where we do, I think it's the sewerage access. It's one of those. It's going to have to be concreted around in order for cars to safely pass each other to go in and out of that driveway. Another concern is, for instance, between June 24 and June 25, we had 212 DV reports. We are 17 out of 130 LGAs for domestic violence, which means there's a lot of protection orders out and about. So odds are you're going to have at least one child there that's going to be on a protection order from another parent. I can go and stand on the corner of Muscat Parade, walk down the backyard of one house that is only fenced on 2 sides, lean over, and I've got direct access to one of those kids. So there is safety issues in that. Now, I personally live about 200 metres from Gowrie Daycare Centre preschool. I hear those kids from my house most days. I can hear them squealing in joy, squealing in tantrums. So I understand the residents' issues with the noise. I believe it is the right project, just not in the right location. Every other daycare or preschool that we have in this town is on a corner block. It's not in the middle of a street with 4 or 5 houses surrounding it. So that is why I will vote against this for the public perception.
Move the motion be put.
I've got a procedural motion,
I'm happy to hear.
but we haven't had 2 for, 2 against. Yeah.
You have had 2 for, 2
Yeah,
against.
but you're cutting debate, Councillor Ring. Are you still?
What's in the code of meeting practice?
Yeah,
We
I'm
can
happy
do
to
it.
put the procedural
I think
motion.
we should all have a right to talk about
Yeah, we'll
this.
have
This has been
Councillor
a
Statham.
contentious
You
issue
will
for a long time.
once I put the procedural motion. If you vote it down, then we continue. Okay. So I've got a procedural motion that I have to put. So all those in favour of the procedural motion, all those against, declare it lost. We go back to debate. Who would like to speak next? Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. This has been a real contentious issue, and I don't know that I've ever voted against staff approval before. Usually the recommendations from staff is a lot of work involved, many hours, many days, many months. I believe this has come to a time now where we have to make a decision that's going to suit what I believe is the correct way to go about this. And I don't approve of it, but I think what's happened is that Curtin Place is an unknown, beautiful area, possibly one of the nicest in Lithgow, that people care. And this isn't about really whether people care or not. This is about if it's right or wrong. And I've looked at it and gone over it. I've been down there now quite a bit. They've amended the original from 39 to 36 places in the childcare centre. That's good news. There were 56 submissions. There were 24 objections and 14 submissions. Now, were those 14 submissions the positive ones for it to go ahead? Were they from Lithgow addresses? I hope they were. One paragraph that I'm going to read here is 8 children in Joey Room, 2 to 3 years with 2 staff. 28 children in the Koala Room, 3 to 6 years with 3 staff. How ridiculous. How can you have 28 children with 3 staff and then 8 children with just 2 staff? So I don't agree with that. I think that's really wrong. Yes, there's been lots of mention of where it's looking over. I've seen that and I don't think it's suitable. The other interesting thing, it is considered that the proposed list generally complies with the relevant provisions of all applicable environmental planning and instrument and regulatory provisions. The word generally worries me. I think the other thing that I need to speak about very briefly, the submissions are important, there's no doubt about that, and there aren't a lot, but then it's not a big area. I can't for the life of me see up to 70 car parks, people parking, even if there's 10 children sick. I've been down there, and I went down there again the other day with a friend, and I met that person down there with their car, and I thought, this is not suitable. And I really want progress in this town. I think we desperately need it. But these children have got no knowledge of any traffic rules, and going and getting them every day and dropping them off, I just can't see that happening. I think that it's a decision that no councillor would have made easy. I think that we have to realise that there surely would be a better place for this undertaking, and I wish the people well that have got this childcare centre. It's nothing personal whatsoever, but I could not leave my grandchildren there, under 5, with that amount of people in that smaller space. And by the time the director gets her car park and another 2 car parks, that's up to 78 or 80 car parks a day. I can't vote for something that's in such a contained area. And I think the people of Curtin Place have been through a terrible lot with this situation. and I think that they deserve to have some respect paid to them for the amount of work that they have put into this submission for us as councillors to actually direct our thoughts to having a negative outcome. I apologise for that, but we have to think about what we're doing, and I would hate any child to run out when there's that many traffic. It'd be like in a shopping centre. It's too dangerous. I'm very sorry.
Any further debate before I put Councillor Marnie?
Thank you, Mayor. The issue, and many of the councillors have spoken to it already, for me, surrounds a safety issue. Having the free converging driveways in close proximity creates a risk, and this risk is amplified during winter when the start and finish times are in pre-dawn and dusk or thereabouts. We have young children with limited situational awareness in operating in amongst traffic, and my concerns are that I've not yet been convinced that we're designing for those risks and for safety for those young children and designing it out. I think the parking, when treated as merely a compliance metric seeking to meet minimum standards, am I already out of time, geez? Right, okay. Really needs to be considered in its complete environment, and understanding that it may technically appear to pass, but it fails in practice, particularly in concern for the safety of young children. The community's spoken about the potential 82 vehicle movements, which are significant, and a high percentage of those could occur in quick succession. Having children that have just started walking and children with limited situational awareness, I'm not convinced that we're designing for safety. And safety is the biggest consideration occurring for childcare and coming from a number of different directions. But we as a council have an opportunity to get the design for safety right at the beginning. So I'm afraid that I've yet to be convinced, and I'm not in a position to support the development being accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further debate? Councillor Smith, sorry.
I think basically everything's been pretty well said, and I agree with that everything's been covered. And I can't actually agree with passing this either, to be honest. I'd like to know where council stands when you actually sort of want to pass something like this, if they ever did, where we haven't provided proper footpaths. And we all know the traffic situation. Has there been a traffic plan done by council? Or has anybody, I assume the people that are opposing this, done some sort of plan, which sounds excellent to me, but I don't think, has it been done by the proponent or has it been done by council? Because otherwise, I think it's just absolutely not on. So I'm definitely opposing it.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there any further debate? You've spoken, Councillor Fredericks, unless you've got a question.
I just had a member of the public reach out and ask me to raise that.
I can't take that, I'm sorry. All right, so if there's no further speakers, I'm going to put the motion and the division at the same time. The code is silent, so we can do it both at the same time. Oh, sorry, you get a right of reply, Councillor Goodwin. I'll come back to you. I apologise. Councillor Goodwin, right of reply.
Yes, listen, I don't think kids are going to be running wild outside this facility. I believe the kids will be turning up and walked in by their parents and then walked out of the centre. It's a complying development. It's the recommendation is for it to be approved. And when this centre is built, it'll offer convenience for families in the area, gives young people access to quality education. It allows for flexible hours for those who work non-traditional hours, qualified professional staff, got support for parents, economic benefits, creates jobs, healthy environments, they'll have food, physical activities and well-being for the families. If we vote against this, we may as well put a sign up in front of Lithgow as we come in, closed for business. We obviously we'll obviously see it when it goes to the Land and Environment Court.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Your right to reply. Yep. I'm going to put the motion and do the division at the same time. There's nothing in the code that allows me to do that. So I'm going to put it to you. All those in favour, please. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order.
Yes.
You've got two motions. They can't be. You can't do. You've got to do the division after it.
No, there's nothing in the code that disallows that. I've had advice on this. I'm putting the motion and doing the division at the same time. It's one action for two issues, two things. So I'm putting the motion and doing the division at the same time. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Evangelides. All those against, please raise your hand, and that's the division. Councillor Statham, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Tysus and Councillor Coleman. The matter is lost. We go back to Councillor Ring. You've got a foreshadow motion.
Yep. I'd like to amend point 1 of the original recommendation to read development application DA 033-25 be refused as it is deemed not to be in the public interest. I'll speak to it if I get a seconder.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Fredericks is happy to second that. Councillor Ring?
I do agree with Councillor Evangelides on a couple of the comments made tonight. We really get the hairs up on our back. Wrong development, wrong place, in the right not in the right location. We're making a decision based on law, not emotion. Councillor Evangelides was right. In the last 12 months, there's been on average one court case a week. They haven't all won. I went and reviewed court cases for the last 5 years, and I downloaded 25 examples. And my decision's based on not just case law, but on the New South Wales guidelines. And the reason we have numerous childcares being constructed at the moment and built is because the government is pushing for them. And there is legitimate needs. However, I do take on board comments from the President, Paul Mondo, of the Australian Childcare Alliance, that a lot of them are being built in the wrong area. They're not being built where the need is. Now, on page 32 of attachment 2.1, section 4.15 assessment report, two comments from the staff in relation to this development. This provides opportunity for social interactions and supports economic growth of Lithgow by supporting parents to return to work. The second is, this provides services to the overall local community and supports economic growth. There's nothing in the development application, nor in the report from council staff, that supports those two claims. Nothing. For all we know, there is an oversupply. There may not be. If there is an oversupply, it's not going to lead to growth. It's going to lead to a loss of jobs in some of the other facilities. My main reasons, and I'm going to be very succinct for refusing this, is the lack of pedestrian connectivity and pedestrian access risks to the proposed centre. The proposed parking and fencing at the front of the building will be visually jarring and inconsistent with the Curtin Place streetscape. Concerns with the implementation of the revised plan of management with respect to supervision and noise management, and the absence of a traffic and parking study, which is clause C32 of the New South Wales Childcare Planning Guidelines, which requires one to be prepared by the proponent and to assess the impact on the local community. It is not being done. It is not council's job to assess it. It is the proponent's job to submit a report, and from what I've read, the guidelines can be used as a basis for council to reject a claim. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Fredericks?
Well, Deputy Mayor Ring pretty much just got that in a nutshell, so I can remain silent.
Fabulous. Any further commentary in this space? Comments? I'll just say that I'll be supporting Councillor Ring's notice of motion that he's brought forward. I had residents come and see me and I took everything on board what they said, and then I actually went and visited the site again after I've done it previously, and I'm really concerned about the driveway. I'm concerned about safety of our children and it was a real concern to me. If there's no further commentary, Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, with Councillor Ring's approval, as it is deemed not to be in the public interest and on safety and traffic management issues, I think that needs to be in there apart from just public interest if there's a likelihood that something will go further.
Look, I'm not prepared to accept that because public interest does cover that. The legislation is very clear on what you can reject an item on. I'm also happy to defer to the director, Mr. Elwood, for his advice. But my understanding is the legislation, the not in public interest would include those things.
Director Elwood, would you like to comment?
Through yourself, Mayor. Through the public interest could cover those elements. If the motion is passed by council and there is a form of challenge, then the public interest would be reviewed by council and further detail will be prepared and through the planning team and development team, but also taking into account that judicial review and judicial process is the first port of call for any assessment of challenge in most situations.
I'm happy with it as it stands. I'll provide you with court cases that support what I've put up, and I'll provide you with additional information. Thank you.
Councillor Tyson, are you going to do an amendment or you will leave it as is?
I think unless we specify other than public interest, then and if the voice of the room was the fact that it was about safety and traffic management, I think that needs to be specified. But if it's not supported, I'm not happy to pursue it. I just don't want to leave it to a court to decide what public interest is.
Councillor Ring.
The court will make a decision regardless. Public interest is difficult. But from my reading of case law, they will look at everything there, and there is a lot of information. It's not just about the safety issues. There are a number of issues, as I have stated. But I think public interest covers the broad picture. I'm happy with it is.
Okay, so we'll leave it as is. Is there any further commentary? Okay, Councillor Ring, right to reply?
Put it, please.
Thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour, and please raise your hand. I'll do the division at the same time. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Statham, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Tyson, Councillor Coleman. Those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Evangelides. The motion was carried. Thank you. That was the division. I just did it.
I'll be leaving the room for the next item now.
Sorry, who's talking to me at once? Councillor.
I'll be leaving now for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Mayor, could you
So we did a motion that was lost to say that we approve. Councillor Ring put up a motion to say that we refuse. The DA's been refused. Okay, you can all go home. Right. We'll just give these people, lovely people, a minute. If you just want to grab a drink, councillors. Actually, we might do an adjournment. Can I have someone move an adjournment for 5 minutes? Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Marnie. If there's no opposition, that's carried. Back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Councillors, I need a motion to go back into council. Councillor Fredericks moving that way. Councillor Goodwin is seconding that. If there's no opposition, that's carried. We go back to normal council. Thank you. Councillor Ring has left because he has a pecuniary regards to this. I've got a motion in. So the item is 2.2, demolition of shed and subdivision into 43 lots, 38 Willawar Street, Portland. Do I have any motions, councillors? Is someone happy to move the recommendation? Councillor Goodwin's happy to move the recommendation. Councillor Marnie's happy to second the recommendation. Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, Mayor Coleman, this is a good report. I think it needs to go for the development of the area, and I'm happy with the report. There's nothing much more to say.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Marnie?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, it is a very good report with a potential outcome which can be extremely beneficial to our community. I've got a couple of points. I just perhaps ask the councillors just to be aware of going forward. We are getting dedications of public open space, which in themselves demonstrate some very good planning as far as keeping connectivity to the water bodies during the different stages of the subdivision. We need to be aware of the cost impacts that will have on us as a council. There'll be new open spaces to manage. Also noting that we will get a water body. It's not the only water body we've managed. We've got some experience and capacity of that. We'll also manage the drainage lines inputting into the water body. Regulations change over time, and we might find, as we're finding with the Cullen discharge, that there'll be a requirement to manage water quality issues and also weed management issues. Now, having said all that, I think that's the actual dedication really enriches the subdivision with the diversity of public open space. But we've just got to walk into this with our eyes wide open that there is an additional cost. I've had something to do with reserve management over many decades. Often you'll get leftovers which have no value being handed over to the council as a gift. But I've looked carefully at these, and these are really important as far as public connectivity as the stage goes through. The other point I just wanted to mention them, and I've sort of got an understanding that we are looking at one of the sheds being demolished on the site. People would have heard through lots of the waste debate about repurposing and reusing building waste, building materials. I need to get that other word out of the thing. There's an opportunity for resource recovery, which I understand is the intent, and there's already some opportunities there. So that's my only comments. I think it's a really interesting transformation of Portland. What's put in front of us. So.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Statham?
This is very exciting news. I've been on this since the very beginning in 2013, I think it began, or 14, and I'm absolutely delighted with Martin and his wife and family, and to have Rich involved. It is something outstanding for Portland. I just want to ask one question as well. Is the open spaces that council are going to be provided with, is that due to the fact that that will create work for council with mowing? Because I do recall quite a bit of toing and froing over the years with who's going to be prepared to do the mowing.
Director Edgecombe, can you answer that, Councillor Statham, please?
Yes, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Yeah, that's correct. In time, these will become public spaces. It's only reasonable to expect that council will maintain those we're in the process at the moment of defining what those service levels will look like and the resourcing impact. And we'll develop that in collaboration with the foundation's developers. And it's expected that the additional revenue generated by the rates income and those sorts of things will help contribute and offset those costs. So we are looking to do this a little bit differently. We've never really assessed the impost on council of significant developments like this. We've just taken them on and tried to factor them into our existing resourcing, and it's led to poor outcomes. We're looking to do things differently and engage more deeply with the developer in this instance.
I'm delighted to hear that, actually, because I know there was many months where they were going backwards and forwards who's going to do the gardening. And on this big scale of the adventure of what's going on in Portland, the gardening or the mowing is really a small concern. However, we want it to look immaculate when it is completed. The way forward for Portland looks like it's going to be very positive, and I think that to date, everything's going really well, and I congratulate Martin and Monica and the council for having the skills required to get this to be in the pipeline sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Any further comments on this or write a reply, Councillor Goodwin?
No, just put the motion.
Happy to put? Sorry? Oh, sorry, I missed you, Councillor Smith. You weren't quick enough, sorry.
I'm just interested where the shed comes into it. It doesn't have any sort of orders with the shed or requirements or nothing like that. Is there anything there historical or nothing like that?
That answered for you. Who can answer that for me? Director Elwood? Are you happy there? No. There's a no.
Fair enough. That's enough.
Okay, that's great. Councillor Goodwin, you write a reply or are you happy to put it? Happy to put it. Okay, I'm going to put it to you plus the division at the same time. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Tysus and Councillor Coleman. The matter's been carried. Thank you. Can someone please get Councillor Ring?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes?
A number of items were circulated to be dealt with by exception.
I'm going to do that thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to do that at council committee reports because there's only 3 to do and that's where we'll put them there.
Thank you.
But thank you for bringing that to my attention. We're up to item 2.3, which is...
I'll move that way.
Okay, I've got an alternative motion, but I'm happy for you to move what's on the page if you like, Councillor Statham. Proposed Central West Academy of STEM Excellence. You're moving on what's on the page?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, and is there a seconder for that? That lapse? I've already lapsed it. I'm sorry. I've got an alternative motion that I'd like to put forward. Can we have that on the screen? Thank you, Trinity. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Thank you. I'm moving that recommendation that you see in front of you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Marnie seconding that. Over the weekend, have you got it in front of you? Yep. It's all up.
Can I please have a question? Did other councillors know about this? Did I not know?
No, it's just that I've got an alternative motion that I was bringing forward. No other councillor knows about it. Okay, so over the weekend it was brought to my attention that the Central West Academy of STEM Excellence was not raised with the Director of the Educational Leadership Lithgow Network, Debbie Lee Hughes. Mrs. Hughes only became aware of the proposal when she read the council business papers. If council wants to go in partnership with the New South Wales Department of Education and wants to establish an Academy of STEM Excellence, then I think it's best that we consult with the relevant stakeholders in regards to this proposal, especially in regards to the name of the academy, the location of the academy, and that we encourage a dialogue with the private sector, TAFE, and universities and industries. I have no problem with the STEM academy, but we definitely need to consult before we decide its location and its name, and that has what has lacked, which is what's been brought to my attention. So this is why I'm bringing it forward. Councillor Marnie?
Look, I concur your position, Mayor, on this. I'll talk to a couple of concerns about from the report, or points I'd like to make out of the report, which I had in front of me prior to you bringing this into place. So there's a couple of issues I just wanted to talk to. Just a couple of terminology elements. We talk about STEAM and STEM in the same group, and I don't want to sound like a complete pedant on this, but they're slightly different things where the STEAM is looking at arts as well as science and the rest. So there's just a couple of points where it references both. I wanted to understand in the terminology the notion of the Central West Academy. Now, the Central West geographically, for me, in my mind, if I'm asked where I see the western boundaries, I'm looking probably at Dubbo. So I'm just trying to get clarity over, given that we're the primary financial partner as a council, in partnership with the Department of Education. I just want to understand what's happening there. I support what you put forward in the motion, Mayor, and I'm happy to second it so that we can discuss this. Obviously, the Department of Education is the primary partner. It's their workplace and their workforce that the project will be managed within. So I think it's important that we look to build on the existing partnerships that we have with, and you've stated here, with the industry and education sectors. So I just think it's maybe a misstep that we can benefit from taking part in. And I'd just like to, maybe through you, Mayor, as a question to staff, just to understand the title as to whether we're seeing it as, and there was reference within other council areas. So I might just ask that question, and I'll leave my comment at that, please.
Would you like that answered now, Councillor?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Mr. Gurney?
Through you, Mayor. The name Central West Academy of STEM Excellence came from correspondence and a proposal from an area of, it came from the Education Department. So we had that in a what's called a draft letter of intent, which is on Department of Education letterhead. So I was particularly unaware that there hadn't been consultation within the Department of Education regarding this matter. So that's obviously been brought to the Mayor's attention. So yeah, that's where the name came from, a proposal of another part of the Department of Education.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just respond?
No,
thank you for the answer. Yeah, I suppose I'm looking at it, given that we're putting a significant amount of money into it as the Lithgow region. I understand there's value in bringing everyone up with the same tide, but I would have expected, if we were going to extend by name into other regions, that there would be some co-contributions coming from there. I may misunderstand it, and I'm very supportive of the concept of STEAM education, and I'm noting that we go from STEM to STEAM through the report. I'd just like to get some clarity in the report. Developing children with critical thinking skills and problem solving skills makes for a very adaptive workforce, and the kids who are sitting at 10 and 12 may well find that the industry sectors in front of them when they arrive well on their way in their career at 20 or 22 could be quite different. So that ability, rather than vocational training where we pick out industries and we train for that industry, hoping that that industry will be there when they reach that age class, I actually am very supportive of this. So I think from what I'm seeing in the notice of motion, what the Mayor's trying to achieve is making sure that the Department of Ed is at the centre of the placement of this education position and how they'll support it.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Any further? Councillor Fredericks and then Councillor Ring. Councillor Fredericks.
Look, I am a really big supporter of STEAM. Okay, I am all for us funding it for the next 2 years, just so we can get the evidence and data behind us to then advocate even harder for the education system to start implementing it into our schools for every student to be able to participate in. Now, I'm not going to go into much of a discussion to do with the budgetary analysis that we have. I'm assuming that is coming to the Emerging Economies Committee for a deeper dive into it and for a more detailed report, hopefully. But yeah, like I said, I'm all for STEAM. It is something that we shouldn't deny the kids if we have the availability to fund it and to get the rest of the data behind it, so that way we can start advocating for the Department of Education to implement it into all schools. That is what I want us to aim at doing.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further comments on this? Yes, sorry, Councillor Ring.
Most councillors know my view on this. I believe council shouldn't be funding state education department programs. I wasn't going to support this. I will support the amendment as it is up. I would prefer it to be at Lithgow High School, and I'll give reasons for that. But the report that was presented to us, I'm sorry, it's absolute rubbish. LEAP is a document. It does not actively pursue anything. It does not work with anyone. Why? Because it's a document. The document doesn't have legs. It doesn't go and talk to people. And I'm tired of reports and documents that talk about LEAP as if it is a separate entity to council. It is not. It is a council-funded project. It is our project. It is one plan. It is one idea moving forward. And the LEAP Action Plan does support the STEAM Academy. But page 65 of the LEAP document states, facilitate university, TAFE and industry partnership to complement and stimulate innovation opportunities. No evidence in the report before us that anything is being done. No assessment of why Portland Central School. I've been to Lithgow High School and I've gone through what the principal has done up there. I'm aware of how much money he has invested in STEAM up there, 2.5 million. I'm aware of how much support he provided this council when we ran the STEAM grant program. Without their support, it would have been a failure. Now, high school teachers can teach down because they're specialists. They can teach in primary school. Primary school teachers are trained to be generalists. They can't teach up. I believe the high school is the best location for it. I'm prepared to support it, particularly if it goes there. And we do need to have proper consultation with key players and key stakeholders in the community. And that includes TAFE. That includes Notre Dame. That includes possibly CSU at Bathurst. We need to talk. Now, in the report, it claims on page 24, it claims that Lithgow Council will coordinate a program funded by the Department of Education in partnership with Council. It's ludicrous. That is not going to happen. That's a deal breaker. We've seen the issues with the project out at Portland, with the grant we received, we had to hand it over to the department. They're not going to back council coordinating a program with their teachers run on their schools. I'm happy for this, but I would like a timeline on when this meeting is done. I think we need to get something done before Christmas. Would you be happy to put a timeline for this meeting in here, Matt?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay, it's got to happen before the end of school term.
So we'd like to do a
Well, I'd like an additional point that
D. Yeah.
That council organise an urgent meeting with key stakeholders to resolve the establishment of an Academy of STEAM Excellence. And I believe that it should include both the Mayor and Deputy Mayor if we're available.
I have no problems with that. Councillor Marnie, do you have a problem with that? No. Did the minute taker get that? All right. Did you want to repeat, please, Councillor Ring?
You want to read what you got? Or is... and the STEAM, an Academy of STEAM prior to the end of the school year, inclusive of the Mayor and Deputy Mayor if available.
Mayor, just in endorsing that point, I just want to make clear why I am. We have a new school year starting in February. Getting all the ducks in a row, if we leave it for more than a few weeks, won't happen till February, and so that momentum at the front end of a school year is lost. So that's why I'm supporting it. I think it's an urgent matter, and if you can, expedite it, that would be good.
Yep, absolutely agree, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Goodwin?
Nick Holman. The principal of Lithgow High School has made significant steps in setting this up. He's put in a lot of money, $2.5 million. There's been no consultation made with him or his director. I believe all this funding will also go to independent schools and private schools, which I don't agree with. I want to know what their contribution to the fund is. I think independent schools and private schools should be putting some funding towards this if they're going to be included. As Lithgow High School, or as the State Department of Education is putting a lot of money into this. It should be raised. It should, as Councillor Ring said, it should be at the Lithgow High School, not out of Portland. That's and that's how I believe that should happen. They've got drive there, and not that Portland doesn't have drive, but they've got we've got a good principal that's driving it now, and I think that he will drive it into the future. So there's runs on the board already there.
I couldn't agree more. Is there any further commentary on this before I do right of reply? I couldn't agree more with Councillor Ring, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Goodwin. The principal at the high school has been absolutely crucial in ensuring the success of the past and program, and I believe this future program. What's so important is consultation. We need to ensure that we're consulting with the education department on where, how, when, and we definitely need an urgent meeting to make sure that we don't miss the boat, especially now that we're coming to the end of the school term. So it's just absolutely crucial that we get this right at this stage. That's my right of reply. I'm going to put the motion to you. If all those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, that matter's been carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item is 2.4, ordinary meeting of council states 2026.
I'll move that way.
We're going to put this into the...
Councillor Marnie's actually raised
raised
this.
it.
Yeah, he's raised. You're moving. Who's moving the recommendation? Councillor Statham was moving the recommendation. Yeah. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Marnie. Are you seconding that? Okay, Councillor Statham.
Oh, I don't think it needs any more discussion. It's very simple. The dates are in front of us, and there's no conflict of from anybody. I wouldn't suggest.
Councillor Marnie.
Okay, trying not to introduce a contrary point, but I just wanted to put in front of the councillors, just given that we got the long weekend at the end of January and we got a meeting on the Tuesday night following it. I spent about 2 days on this paper. So on the public holiday of January 26th, I'll be largely reading January's paper. I'm just wondering whether there's an agreement in the councils maybe to have 2 meetings in February, one on the 2nd of February and the program 23rd of February, which gives the staff and councillors an opportunity after having leave for the very small time during the year. I think there's people in the community that perhaps don't think we do enough as councillors, but my dealings with most of the councillors here is they're on the job every week for a large part of the year, and I just think if we could perhaps consider starting the year's meetings just post the January 27 date that's proposed. I'll put that in for the councillors.
Councillor Statham, would you consider changing that since you've moved the motion?
Sorry, is it an amendment being put up?
No, he's just making a suggestion.
Can we talk about the suggestion?
Yeah, would you like to move it as an amendment?
What I would like to say, there's no amendment, we talk about it.
No, there was no amendment. I was just
the
going
first
back to the
council
mover.
that I was on, we had a standing thing where if it's a long weekend, the council meeting wasn't on the Tuesday, it'd be on the Wednesday later in the week. And I do agree with that, because some councillors may want to go away for the weekend. I don't know why they think they're entitled, but apparently some do. So look, I'm happy to, if councillors or the mover and seconder want to change it, to put it back a week or whatever.
That's what I was suggesting, to come back to Councillor Statham.
Yeah.
Since she did actually move the recommendation, would she consider taking on board what Councillor Marnie has said and change that part of the recommendation?
Would she also be happy to make it the 28th, the Wednesday, rather than the...
Maybe it'd be better if we all had a hand up who would prefer each day, because it seems a simple thing, but I'm happy to change it.
I'm happy to accept the 28th, the Wednesday.
Yeah, look, I'd be happy with that. It's been
28th,
consistent.
so that's the 28th of January? Yeah.
Councillor Marnie, are you okay with that?
Okay, so Councillor Statham, if you're happy to, if you're still the mover, so
Yes.
change the 27th of January to the 28th of January.
Yes.
Are you happy with that?
Yes.
As the mover and the seconder,
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
change?
Yes.
Councillor Ticehurst, you're okay with that? That was your suggestion? Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak on this? No? Okay, we've got that change in, yeah? Is there any further commentary on that or debate?
No, I'd rather reply.
You're
I
happy
think
for me to
it's-
put
yes.
it, Councillor
Thank
Statham?
you. Yes, just put it. Thank you.
I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Next item is 2.5, financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2025. There's a recommendation on the page. What's the will of the council?
I would like to move with an additional point.
Sure. Would you like to move? And is there a seconder?
Well, I think I need to read up the point first.
Okay, so you're going to put up, yeah?
Point 4, that the Mayor advocate for the reimbursement of the $7.2 million in completed works refused under DFRA program.
Who would like to second that? Councillor
I'm
Marnie?
happy with that
Councillor Ring?
proposition.
We've heard from the auditor, but I would like to put a couple of questions through you, Mayor, to the Director of Finance and Governance,
Yep.
if I could.
Yep.
I'll ask them one at a time. Can you clarify the relationship between the net operating loss after accounting for capital grants and contributions of 8.1 million and the net operating surplus before depreciation of 10.42 million?
Director Brownlee?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. The difference is depreciation. So one result reflects the depreciation, the other has it removed. Ideally, what we attempt to do is to ensure we have an operating result that includes and covers the cost of depreciation on the basis that would cover future asset renewal. So that is a matter for of contentiousness at the moment in the industry that's being reviewed.
Sorry, can I ask you to dumb it down a bit?
Yeah.
Does the money? I'm sorry, I spent a lot of time going over these reports.
I'll do it
again.
like I did earlier.
Yeah. Maybe not as blunt, but we have to put money away for capital. Where's it coming from? Is that the 10.2? I understand depreciation. Yeah. I have your views on it. But I just want you to really dumb it down.
Yeah.
Just so people understand, this is more of a...
so the difference is essentially, so it looks like we've got $10.5 million up our sleeve. In reality, what happens is we use a balance of cash kept in reserves, and we also spend it on capital renewal. So that income statement doesn't include our capital expenditure. Oh. So essentially what we try and do is balance our budget every year. So what we use in reserves and what we earn in income gets spent on capital expenditure and operating expenditure, and you aim for a balanced result. Yeah. So in this year's statements, what it shows is that we used $22.5 million from reserves, which would have mostly been grant income received in previous years, and we were able to spend $35.4 million on capital. So that was that new and renewal figure that the auditor went through in the presentation.
Okay, in the report, you also talk about the use of reserves to fund $7.2 million that DFRA refused to fund, but you're only recommending $3.6 million to repay. Why?
Yeah, so some of it's covered because we underspent elsewhere, so we didn't have to put to reserves as higher amount as we anticipated. So that brought it down to 5.3 versus the 7.2. The balance is we reviewed the reserves and what was retained in those reserves, and we found that some expenditure had already been delivered and funded under general fund, so is no longer required to be restricted.
So the next one is a bit of a statement and a question, so bear with me. The DFRA decision will have an adverse impact on our cash reserves moving forward. So we'll need to carefully stagger major projects and, where necessary, make reductions in our operating budget. The next few years will require the elected councils to be highly focused on financial management and defining what standard of services are necessary moving forward. Are there any underlying financial matters that as councillors we will need to consider over the next few years?
Yeah, certainly. So obviously the biggest challenge is to address the infrastructure backlog that's come out as a result of the SRV funding of the road studies. And obviously as we undertake those studies on other asset categories, that will obviously provide additional data. Also, as was identified in the Finance Committee meeting as part of the budget, there's an underlying issue of about $1.4 million, which is essentially because an operating grant was discontinued. So it'd been there for probably 4 or 5 years before and has now gone. So obviously budgets were balanced before that. And that was unknown at the time of the SRV preparation, that would be a challenge to be overcome. What's critical and was identified in the financial sustainability plan is service reviews. So that was always part of the response in terms of becoming financially sustainable in the long term.
Okay. What about our cash flows? I mean, a couple of councils already asked about it. What is the impact on our cash flows? Do we have capacity moving forward to do our job?
So cash is at a crunch at the moment, which has been identified with the Finance Committee. So it is a significant challenge we need to overcome because, we weren't anticipating to have a cover $7.2 million of what was done in good faith in terms of recovering of assets as part of the natural disaster responses. Not taking away from the guidelines, but obviously it's a different. We before had 100% of claims accepted. We only had 40%, but originally we only had 20% approved. So we did a lot of work to bring that percentage up. But we'll have a significant impact. So some of those internal reserves were put aside for some pretty important works that need to occur. And that obviously constrains and delays the delivery of those.
Thank you. So I think, Mayor, that you really need to put .4 at the top of your shopping list. We need to get some of that money back, so you need to get to work. Thank you.
No worries. Councillor Marnie?
Firstly, I'll appreciate the work you've done, Mrs. Browning. I always appreciate these reports. I we're still talking in terminology that we need to continue to work with myself and other councillors. So I'm not saying that I've got tremendous financial expertise. I think one point, and Councillor Ring spoke directly to it, if we look at the exposure to disasters in New South Wales, they're predominantly, without fail, regional LGAs. And this creates a cost burden on councils that are least equipped to respond to economic shock. So, you know, if we look at the floods up in the Lismore, up in the Clarence Valley, or whether we go into Eugowra, or go down to Eurobodalla Shire and Shoalhaven with fires, or you come to our own community where we had the whole lot. So we have fires and floods. These things place a significant economic shock. When I talk to people about whether they want to talk to climate change or whether they want to talk to climate events or whatever terminology they want to put to it, whilst coming from an environmental management background, I talk to the economics, because the economics are devastating for some communities. So I don't think we're left with much of a choice but to take emergency works as they come in front of us after these events. So the 7.2 million impact, the community expects us to get on with the job of creating normality in our assets. So I appreciate the challenge that's there for our community. The infrastructure backlog, and I won't go on about this for long, I've been consistently, and I won't say I'm the only one, the people in the previous terms of council before I came on spoke strongly to the need to deal with asset management plans. We're finally arriving, and they're telling somewhat of a horror story for us financially, because we have ageing infrastructure, and we'll come to that in a report in some detail at the back about the water outage. These things need to be brought into the light, which they will in a relatively short time, I hope. And this is not going to be sitting on its patent alone. There'll be other infrastructure backlogs that'll come through. I listen in the communities a lot of talk about amalgamations. Let's just cut us up and send us off to other councils. Not many councils are having a financial fun time of it at the moment. And amalgamations with other councils under financial stress is like asking a person who can't swim to dive in and save the drowning person. So I don't see that the pathway forward. I think what's important in our campaigns is, and this was spelled out in the recent 2025 state conference, was we need to get the federal assistance grants back to 1%. Quite pleasing, the motion brought forward by this council sitting out in the Central Tablelands of the state assistance grant was also supported by the conference. A recognition that, and which is targeted at regional areas. If we want to go through the list of natural disasters, the only ones that are remotely metro are the Hawkesbury and the Blue Mountains. So it's those councils that sit over the edge of the Sydney Basin. All other regional councils were bearing the brunt of these. So it's a mixed thing. I agree with Councillor Ring that we need to advocate that we're not in a position just to absorb $7.2 million worth of storm and fire damage, flood damage, and neither are many of the regions. So my personal view is that we need to have that added to the advocacy. I know that the Mayor and the General Manager will speak to this at every opportunity they get when they're talking to federal departments, but I think that's the main theme out of this, and I appreciate Ms. Browning for highlighting that, because that is a unique thing that regional New South Wales has to line up against.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Any further commentary on this matter? No? Before I give you a right of reply, Councillor Ring, I think it's important that we do put the reimbursement of the $7.2 million on the advocacy shopping list. And I want to acknowledge both Director Edgecombe and Director Elwood at this stage. They write very good letters and they do a lot of work behind the scenes in regards to the advocacy shopping list that we have, and I do truly appreciate the work that they do. So thank you very much, and so does the General Manager. But I will always put my best foot forward when it comes to the Greater Lithgow region, when it comes to these issues. Councillor Ing,
Just very succinctly, I'm glad you acknowledged the staff. The knockback of those works had nothing to do with the staff, the ability of the staff. There was a sheer act of bastardry that has been applied to a number of councils in this state, and it needs to stop. You don't tell councils to go out, do the work, we will reimburse you, then question everything they do. Set the bloody guidelines properly at the beginning, have a level playing field, and don't screw around regional communities. Sorry.
Will they take that as your right of reply?
I can do another one if you want. I can be a lot blunter.
We're right. Okay, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. The next item is 2.6.
Just a matter of procedure, Mayor. Before we get on to anything else, I was wondering whether we can bring forward 6.4 from Councillor Frederick's notice of motion on the independent forensic review of council finances, given that we've just gone through and accepted the auditor's report. If we can move that forward and get that done, because it's another report.
Is there any opposition to that?
I don't have I've asked for the finance reports to come out. I'm happy for it to immediately follow these, because these, in some ways, perhaps.
I can put it under 2.7. So if we do 2.5, which is financial, and 2.6 and 2.7, I can slip it under 2.7.
Yeah.
Okay? And then we can do it there. If you're happy with that, let's compromise on that space. All right. So we'll move 6.4, which is Councillor Frederick's notice of motion, to under 2.7. All right? If you're righto, I'll compromise. So if we go back to the agenda, which is where we're up to, 2.6. So investment report, October 2025. Do we have any motions, councillors?
Yes,
Councillor Marty?
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
You're happy to move what's on the page? Any seconder, please? Councillor Goodwin, thank you. That's appreciated. Councillor Money.
Look, I'll speak briefly to it, Mayor Coleman. Just a couple of points. First one I wanted to speak to is, I think it's important that, and I thank Mrs. Browning for her work on this, that we put into the public view the works that are occurring in these periods. And I think there's significant work that's occurring, and particularly wanted to note the work that's going on in Cupro Main Street, which in Western Main Street, which has been highlighted through the flood risk mitigation planning work. It is great to see material responses to significant risks to economic zones in our town, but also for the people who reside in that neighbourhood. So I just wanted to put that one forward. The other one I just wanted to quickly mention around the internal borrowing, just as it's my understanding, I've been making inquiries as the chair of the Finance Committee, that has moved from 1.9 now down to 1.5 million. So there is a reducing number there. So not in any way discounting that we have significant financial challenges as a council, that there are some things heading in the right direction at the moment. So I think, and also the other thing with the high value supplier payments, I think it's critical to understand that even some of this, what would be seen as utilities, like paying your software licenses and your power bills, they're very substantial costs to this council. There may be some other options. We're reducing our electricity account. Don't know, we might look at, I do remember a previous councillor talking about putting solar panels on buildings. Who knows? So I'll leave my commentary at that, but given the recent interest in our council's finances, I think it's worth bringing these reports out and at least taking a few minutes to reflect on them before we pass them in block.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Goodwin?
I don't have any further commentary on that.
Thanks, Councillor Goodwin. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Tysus.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to quote from page 36 at the bottom where the responsible accounting officer has commented on restricted reserves. And the quote is that council had insufficient, which is underlined, cash and investments at 31 October 25 to fund $47 million of externally restricted reserves and $5.6 million of internally restricted reserves. An internal borrowing of $1.9 million from internally restricted reserves was required for general purposes due to the timing of annual payments for the period 31 October, relating to software and insurance that was unmatched by cash inflows. This is expected to be repaid over the balance of the year with no significant annual payments remaining and as further rate instalments are received. I just note for the public record and for the ratepayers that information. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Tysus. Any further? I'll go back to Any further? I'll go back to Councillor Marnie. Right, reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor, if we could ask the Finance Director, do you want to provide a response to that paragraph, just for explanation, since we're out in the commentary is in the public setting, so it'd be useful to add that.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Certainly. So there's a lot of upfront payments that we make in the earlier part of the year, and obviously a lot of ratepayers pay their rates instalments in quarters. So that's just explaining that I anticipate that we should be okay at the end of the year, but we'll know as the year progresses whether that'll balance out.
Thank you, Director Brownie. Councillor Marnie?
Thank you. I'd rather hear from a professional than me express a view. So thank you.
Is that your right of reply, Councillor Marnie? Okay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you.
Before we proceed, Mayor, I'm sorry I was a bit slow earlier, but I'd like to move procedural motion to move 6.4 to after 2.9. I think if we're dealing with a council or non, that anything from the administrative's reports should be dealt with first.
Okay. Are you happy with that? We'll just move it to down. You're going to put it through. I already agreed to do it at 6.4. I don't think it matters much, so we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so we're up to 2.7, which is Q1 budget review. We have a recommendation in front of us, councillors. Is there any motions?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendations.
What's on the paper?
Yep.
Is there a seconder? Happy to second, Councillor Reen. Councillor Marnie?
Very brief on this one, Mayor. Again, I find the detail in fairly plain English around reasons for changes in revenue and expenditure projection and capital expenditure budget useful for the community to understand what is the council doing and what is some of the income streams. So I'm pleased to see that we're starting to get some income streams in the Natural Area Operating Program. We have an officer placed in there. Whilst modest, all of those contributions stop us dipping into ratepayers' pockets for income. And there's a series of grants there which is useful on page 40. Also, it talks to the challenges that we face, that we are getting increases in workers' compensation premiums. All of those things are happening to us as an organisation, so I appreciate the visibility that's provided into the community if they want to look into these reports. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Reen?
I'd just like to remind people that all budgets, be they personal, private enterprise or local government, are impacted by many factors that are outside our influence and which cannot be readily identified during the budget phase. Massive increases in petrol, fuel, massive increases in electricity, which go above what's been predicted. And I'd just like to highlight one case in question, and that is the increase in workers' compensation premiums. For our council, this year that's increased by $305,000. Any increases in the budget in budget expenditure have to be met by cuts elsewhere. This is not a reflection of poor management. This is just a reflection of the realities of the world we live in. Supply chains are still in chaos. High prices, it all impacts everything we do. The only way we can balance our budget is to make cuts. Every dollar we spend has an adverse impact on something else. I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Any further debate on this topic?
Could I just ask a question, please?
Yes, Councillor Statham.
The Upper Macquarie County Council Weeds Corporation, where are we up to? I personally would like to know myself, but several farmers would like to know how much we're spending on that. Could I please give notice of that? And
can we take that on notice?
Yeah,
we'll take that on notice, Councillor Statham. Thank you. Councillor Tysos?
Thank you, Mayor. I note the expert comment in the report on page 42, going off what Councillor Marnie was talking about, but there's a quote there that underneath the cash and investment statement, it indicates there is insufficient cash and investments to fund Council's external and internal restrictions, with a $2.2 million shortfall in unrestricted working capital. The shortfall has been allocated against internal restrictions. Action is currently in progress to address this shortfall. Where are we up to with that shortfall in regards to the budget?
Director Browning?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. As you can see, that's changed from the 2.2 down to the 1.9 the following month. As rate instalments come through, it should improve. But we're also undertaking what we're calling a budgetary reset as part of the December quarter review. We're also looking at capital works and the timing of those capital works to ensure that our cash flow actually is within the funding envelope for the year end. So any adjustments that are required of that nature. This budget reset is also to attempt to reset budgets for next year as well to make sure that we're living within the available funding.
Thank you, Councillor Tysos and Director Browning. Is there any further debate? Councillor Marnie, right of reply? You happy for me to put it? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Councillor Frederick, 6.4. This is your recommendation. So what would you like to move, and do you have a seconder and then speak to it? Yeah, Councillor Tyson is seconding. If you'd like to move your recommendation and then speak to it, please.
Okay, so the recommendation is that Council engage an independent and suitably qualified forensic accounting firm through a transparent and competitive process to review Council's financials and spending for the past 5 financial years. 2, receive a full report on findings and recommendations of the review. And 3, make the final report publicly available and implement recommendations that improve Council's financial management, efficiency and transparency.
Thank you.
So I want to start from the onset of saying this is not an attack on staff. I have complete faith in our executive team and in our employees. I believe they have followed every rule, every procedure, every piece of legislation. I believe they've dotted every I and crossed every T. This motion is not about blame. It's about honesty, transparency, and restoring community trust. Because community perception right now is becoming a problem, and perception, whether accurate or not, can snowball faster than the truth can keep up. We are seeing the snowball beginning to form. A petition is currently circulating to put this council into administration. Fair enough, this particular petition is likely to fail because it does not look like it's going to have the signatures required to move forward. But it is only the first one. More will come, and each one after will be bigger, harder, and louder to ignore. Once that distrust takes hold, it spreads very quickly through rumours, assumptions, frustration, and anger. If we don't act now, and if we appear defensive or unwilling, that perception will solidify. And once it does, reversing it becomes almost impossible. I do not want that on our staff's conscience. I do not want that on council. I do not want that burden on anyone. We also need to recognise that there have been decisions made by this council that simply have not sat well with the public or even with some councillors. Decisions such as the $2 million footpath loan, despite executive advice not stating clearly to do it.
Point of order.
Yes,
the management response clearly states that the administration did not recommend against borrowing the loan. It is not their role.
Please.
I didn't state that they said against it. I said that they did not specifically state for us to do it.
Not their job.
So, Councillor Fredericks, please be mindful of your commentary.
Yeah. where was I? The tendering concerns raised about Kramer Park and the mess that was the result of the work performed. LEAP receiving full funding from the SRV, something that has caused discomfort within the community and within this chamber, especially what has been produced. These are just some of the decisions that are igniting public pushback and prompting people to question our integrity and honesty. Whether we agree with that perception or not, it's the reality we have to face. On top of that, we now have a 25 million operating shortfall because state and federal grants have dried up. And we also know that we begged the state government to take
Point
over.
of order. There is not a $25 million shortfall.
Operating
I'll ask for
shortfall. I
clarification.
specifically said operating shortfall.
Councillors, please.
I will ask for clarification
So-
from the director, please.
Yeah, so let's just hold the debate there. Let's have some decorum, and we'll come back to Director Browning. Can you please respond to that so we don't go any further down this rabbit hole?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. So the $25 million operating loss reported is for the reasons outlined, which was a combination of a whole raft of reasons, but predominantly the rejection of the claims for grants, as well as unmatched capital grants from the prior year. There's in terms of mismatch between when grant funding was received versus when it had to be spent.
So literally what I said, because of
It wasn't
funding
drying up. It wasn't grants drying up. That's the future problem. But for last year, it was about the timing of grants income being received versus when they needed to be spent.
So it's timing.
Timing.
Okay, right. Well, it says, well, there's a
to a degree.
To a degree, yeah. Timing.
All right.
Councillor Frederick.
So hopefully I can continue again. Where was I? And we know that we have also begged the state government to take over the Walgan Road project because of the scope, the cost, the skill, and the scope was too great for us to carry alone, and it was too great for any council to carry alone. The executive's own comments in this business paper support that. We asked for help, we pleaded for assistance, and the state said no. That alone should be a wake-up call. We can no longer rely on grants or state or federal intervention as our safety net. So it's time for us as a council to pull our big kid knickers up and take charge of our own financial future. We must stop waiting for handouts that no longer come. We must stop burying ourselves in loan after loan after loan, and we must start taking responsibility for finding real sustainable solutions. Not every solution will be popular. Not every cut will be comfortable. Not every adjustment will be approved, but doing nothing guarantees failure. This independent forensic audit is the beginning. It is this council finally acknowledging the scale of the problem and committing to finding solutions based on evidence, not guesswork or assumptions or internal reassurance. We need completely fresh, independent eyes. ARIC cannot do this. Just like councillor staff and executives, they are too close to the situation. And let's be realistic. If we cannot afford $450,000 for a forensic audit, then we almost absolutely cannot afford $4.1 million every year for 6 years on a road alone, not even going into how much we still got to pay for the footpath loan. The idea that we can afford debt but not transparency is simply not logical, nor will it be accepted by the community. Voting against this audit tells the community we fear what we might uncover. Voting for it tells them we believe we have done absolutely everything right, and we are willing to prove it.
Thank you, Councillor
I haven't
Frederick.
finished.
Oh, okay.
We all know we have followed legislation. We've all followed process. We have all acted in good faith on the decisions we have made. This audit will confirm that, but more importantly, it may just give us a long-term plan, one that helps us avoid falling into tens of millions of dollars of debt, and one that prevents us from slamming ratepayers with another SRV. We cannot repeat another 40+% SRV. The community will not tolerate it, and they shouldn't have to. As Deputy Mayor Ring has said many times, the decision of previous councils fall into our hands. Whilst I don't fully agree with that statement, as we didn't make those decisions, I do believe we are responsible for dealing with their consequences and finding the solutions. And this motion is exactly that, us taking responsibility not for the past, but for the future. This audit is our chance to rebuild trust, stop the rumours, halt the snowball before it becomes an avalanche, and show genuine leadership and integrity. This is the start of us fixing a problem decades in the making. And this is why I am strongly urging all councillors to vote for it. It's not about a witch hunt.
Councillor Tysus.
Congratulations, Councillor Fredericks. You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Let's see where it all goes. Thank you.
Further, Councillor Ring and then Councillor Evangelides.
I have some questions for you, Mayor, to Councillor Fredericks, if I may.
Sure.
First question. Given this nom and Councillor Fredericks' concerns regarding our finances, can she please advise the councillors in the community if she supports Councillor Tysur's public request for an ex gratia payment of $250,000? It's on public record.
Hang on. The question can be asked, but the councillor is not obligated to answer.
I appreciate that, Mayor. I'm asking the question regardless.
Well, she's not obligated to answer.
As far as I'm aware, that's not before the council. When that becomes before the council, that is when I'll vote on it.
Okay.
No, that's fine. So much for transparency. Number two, I withdraw that comment.
Thank you.
Mayor. Sorry.
Withdraw.
Peter, a moment.
Councillors. Yes, point of order has been
And I've apologised and withdrawn.
Withdraw, apologise. Thank you. All right. Come, let's have some
Okay, second question. Does the councillor have any concrete evidence to support her request for a 5-year forensic review, given the management responses and the fact that the auditor said a forensic audit would imply corruption or fraud?
Councillor Fredericks, you're not obligated to answer.
Oh, no, I'll answer. I have no issues to answer. It's not about whether or not I have evidence. It's producing evidence to stop the dissent happening in the community. We have to do something to stop it. Otherwise, it's just going to get bigger, it's going to get louder, and it's going to be harder to ignore. You might not care about them getting out there and screaming. No, you asked the question.
No, that's a personal attack. I'll be quiet and let your little girl talk.
Councillors,
Please shut up.
Councillors. You've asked the question, it's been answered. Councillor Tysus, do not yell at me. Do not yell at me. I am trying to do that. If you be calm, please calm. Councillor Ring, please make sure your questions are respectful and succinct. Councillor Fredericks, you've answered that question. Let's move on from there.
The third question is, can Councillor Fredericks advise what services that she would cut in order to make savings of $500,000 to fund this audit?
Are you happy to answer that? You're not obligated.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know what services we can cut. That's the trouble we have. Talking about this $20 million loan that we're looking at applying for, we've asked what services need to be cut. We don't know yet. That's something we've got to look into.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. You've answered that question.
Okay, I'd like to speak now.
Now you're going to speak.
Thank you.
Okay.
During the past 12 months, there's been 4 dedicated finance meetings and 2 recently combined finance and infrastructure. It's only the last 2 meetings that Councillor Fredericks has attended, and I appreciate she's got children. Personally, I find this notice of motion offensive. It implies that councillors and administration are corrupt or totally incompetent. I'm sorry, it is my opinion, I'm entitled to it.
What's your point of order, Councillor Tyson? Councillor Tyson.
The point of order, that is an adverse comment against Councillor Fredericks. Absolutely.
Let's make sure the debate's respectful, Councillor Ring.
And I made it very clear in my opening
Councillor
statement.
Tyson and Councillor Fredericks, I'm chairing. Councillor Ring, please make sure your statement is respectful.
It is respectful, basically.
I'm
entitled to my opinion.
He's entitled to his opinion, but it needs to be respectful.
It's not respectful, Mayor. It needs to be withdrawn.
It needs to be
respectful. The comment needs to be withdrawn.
He's not. Councillor Ring, continue, please.
Councillor Statham has had baseless accusations framed in the last 12 months. It's caused her a lot of stress, and reports like this only cause the conspiracy theorists in our community to stir up trouble. No councillor should be put in a position where we're being accused of fraud or corruption, and that's what a forensic audit implies. The performance of council is highly regulated and monitored. As I've stated publicly, it is the councillors who are accountable for the operation of the council, including the results of the annual report. That's not my opinion. That's in the legislation. I would like to move an amendment, but before I do that, I'd also like to flag a matter arising from this report in accordance with 9.2 of the Code of Meeting Practice.
What's your amendment, please?
My
Councillor?
amendment is that Council note the management response.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Marnie will second that. Okay, you can come back to that. And your matter arising, you need to flag that now.
Basically, no, I'd rather get this
You're
out
going
the
to wait
way.
to do that?
I'll
You
wait.
wait it afterwards. Okay, you've
Yep.
got a matter arising. Councillor Ring.
I think the management response has said it. Council budgets are complex. They're difficult. Borrowing money is a normal part of business for councils and business and for individuals. It's how we buy houses. Our ability to borrow money is dictated by our capacity to repay it. Yes, the concept of a loan has been discussed in relation to the roads, but not yet. This is why I wanted the next item, just after the next item. I have a number of amendments to that, and I'm not going to support the loan at this point in time. I do support the principles, but there's more information needed. We are doing everything that we can to responsibly manage the resources of this council. Grants, this council, all councils live on grants. The amount of rates that we receive and fees and charges are only around about 45 million. We would not be able to operate. If people think our potholes are bad now, God help us if we only had 45 million. If we don't take affirmative action to reduce our depreciation, which is a book figure, if we don't take action to upgrade our roads, there are going to be more deaths, there's going to be more accidents. We need to take positive action, but I don't believe this is correct. As the auditor said, there's a forensic audit is about corruption and fraud, and I don't believe there's any evidence for that.
Councillor Marnie.
I'll reserve my right to reply. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any further? Councillor Evangelides, we've got an amendment in front of us, but would you like to speak?
Essentially the same topic, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 I'll save you 450K. You don't need a forensic accountant. Everything's open. You're just not happy. Sorry, the councillor is just not happy with the decisions that have been voted for.
Point of order.
Well, that was an attack. That was a personal attack. He stated the councillor is not happy with
He said councillors are not. He said councillors. Okay. Please be mindful. Be respectful.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't intended to be an attack, a very weak attack. To refer to a social media page which has around 20 active users and 1,000 members in this council, for me, is bizarre.
The Order, Mayor. She didn't refer to a social media
No,
page.
he's referring to it.
No, yeah, but he's referring to a specific one.
She referred to a poll on a social media page.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you.
I say a poll from social media page. I said there's an
Point
online
of order, Mayor.
Can we just settle down, please?
Discussion has to cease with a point of order.
I have got the chair. Councillor Evangelides, please refer to the debate that's happening at the moment. Don't refer to the councillor or decisions. Councillor Tisis, Councillor Fredericks, please just sit, listen, and allow the councillor to speak. Let's have some decorum and let's have some respect. Councillor Evangelides.
Okay. I 100% would not support this. Everything is in the open. The decisions made are made by council. The talk of the community being in an uproar, I'm on social media a lot. I disagree with that comment. This is not a role for a forensic accountant. There is no money missing. There is no fraud. There is no unexplained funds that have taken a holiday. It's all there.
Thank you. Any further debate? You've spoken already. We're on the amendment. Oh, you can speak on the amendment. Yes, Councillor Fredericks.
It is clear certain people have ears painted on their heads.
Now, Councillor Fredericks, please.
Point of order.
Councillor Fredericks, you just called a fellow council into gear for the same reason. You're doing the same. Be respectful.
Sorry, I withdraw that comment. I specifically stated I personally do not believe anything wrong has been done. The only way to quiet the tiny little snowball that is going to become an avalanche is to get out in front of it. I'm not accusing anyone in this council of being corrupt. That's already happening out in the public. You see it every day. Every council is facing that accusation from their communities. But the longer we let that crap ride, the louder it becomes. Do we want to get out in front of it and show them the truth that we already know, that there is nothing wrong happening, that everything is being followed to the T? Or are we going to let the rumbles become thunder? This is what I'm trying to get at. We need to be proactive. We need to get in front of this kind of stuff and cut it off at the head. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse. In 2 years' time, if it's still going and it's still getting louder, a forensic review is going to cost a lot more.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further commentary? Councillor Statham.
I feel very torn with this particular notice of motion. I do feel I have reason to feel that way. I only voted for the SRV, as other councillors did, to clearly say from the then General Manager there will be no services taken out. Now that every councillor that is here tonight, that was here last year and a half ago, that was the one thing that made me vote for that. There was going to be no services reduced. I'm not going to name anything now or point the finger. I know how much this is going to cost, but I feel really sad to think that there are many services that I suggest may have been cut. And to that end, how did that occur? I don't know how that's occurred, because if I was to speak to ex-General Manager Mr. Craig Butler today, I don't know whether he would have any idea what has gone on. I was tempted to do that. I thought, no, that's not right. So I feel I don't want to spend the money at all. But why on earth did we go from having quite an excessive plus in terms of when all the rate money came in, and to think there was no services going to be cut? I feel like there's something, I'm not saying not right, absolutely not accusing anybody, but for my own personal well-being, after being bashed around the head with a number of things this year, I feel that there shouldn't be as many. I realise the funding's given up, yes, and we probably didn't bring that into the projection, but I do wonder how we are now in this particular state with just a year and a half behind us. I do wonder that.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. I'm going to hand over to the General Manager because I want certain questions that have been asked cleared up. I mean, Councillor Frederick has touched on administration. I want to know how that actually works. I need to understand in regards to financial sustainability. I also want to understand, Councillor Fredericks, you mentioned how much this would cost. Did you, how much was you were saying?
Miss Browning has stated it in her reply that it would cost $450K.
$450K. Okay, thank you. Over to the General Manager.
Through you, Mayor, just very briefly in response to Councillor Statham's comments, just a couple of examples that have come up in reports considered by Council tonight is the $7.2 million rejection of claims for natural disasters that Council spent but wasn't reimbursed for, and other examples of substantially increasing costs such as workers' compensation were also mentioned. Just in relation to financial sustainability, I'll just quote from a report that's prepared Australia-wide by Council's insurers. It's an annual risk survey of all councils in Australia. Financial sustainability has been the number one risk for all councils for consistently for 8 consecutive years. And that goes back to a time, 2017, this council did have a financial management maturity report completed in early 2017. All recommendations from that report were implemented. Regarding financial sustainability, the report from JLT states that financial sustainability remains the foremost risk for Australian councils, primarily driven by funding challenges. Cost shifting from higher levels of government and insufficient rate revenue exacerbate this issue. Many councils face the ongoing challenge of prioritising various risks that impact financial sustainability while striving to maintain service delivery and community wellbeing. Thank you.
Great. Any further debate on this? We've got the amendment in front of me. Any further debate on the amendment? Councillor Marnie, I'll come back to you. You reserved your right.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going to go back on a historical point, Mr. Gurney, the General Manager, has raised. My understanding that in 2016, Lithgow City Council was declared not fit for the future. Is that a correct statement?
Through me, that's my understanding. I wasn't at Lithgow Council at that time, but yes, and that was one of the prompting reasons for a financial maturity report to be prepared.
Exactly.
And a multi-year implementation program followed, and as I said, with all recommendations implemented, which included the recruitment of quite a few more qualified accountants, such as myself.
Yes. Despite this, it was determined that under the then local government minister, the council would stay as a separate entity. With that period, 2016 was the commencement of asset management planning in local government. Now, I'm not here to fire bullets at anyone, but this is probably one of the ranked with some of my worst homework delivery moments in high school. 10 years later, we've delivered the homework. What the homework has uncovered, and the homework has been well done, and when we do go back to the roads report, it's something I think we can be proud of as an organisation, what we've done with that, is here's your backlog. Now, this backlog wasn't known prior to the SRV being completed. Now, there's only 3 councillors in this room that voted for it. Myself, Councillor Staphen and Councillor Goodwin. I voted for it, and there was a lot of people that stared me down in my friendship group, and because I could see what was coming over the hill. I didn't know what the number was, but it was obviously we were going to be hit by an asset backlog. And we will be when the water and sewage come forward. Anyone that thinks that our sewage and water infrastructure is up to scratch as far as replacing ageing infrastructure, has seen plenty of evidence over the last 5 years. So we're sitting there with that financial challenge. We determined a number of 27.7 that the average punter should pay. We've now found that, yes, we do have a bigger cost burden than we planned for. The risk now is, do we look at borrowing money? And if I can ask another question, because I think it's important we understand this in context, was there any money borrowed for the Cullumbullen sewage treatment plant? If I could, for you, Mayor.
Yep. Matt, Director Trapp.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Yes, council had a proportion of that as part of the original funding process. It was 4.8 million came from the state government. We had to utilise $2 million of our own funds for that, of which $1.5 million of that was loan funded.
Okay. Can I, probably the General Manager can answer this. Thank you, Mr. Trapp. How much of that loan is outstanding?
General Manager?
Through you, Mayor, I think we would need to take that on notice.
Okay. All right.
Director
However,
Browning, would you know?
I would note that loan terms are usually a minimum of 10 years.
Okay.
So I suspect that there may still be some owing on it, but we could give.
Yep.
We could.
I suppose where I'm going, and my apologies, I should have put these on notice here. I know we borrowed $1 million to manage cash flow. Any of the staff aware of that? And could they give me an understanding of how much the balance is on that loan?
through you, Mayor, that as was agreed with council, that loan has been fully repaid and was repaid within 12 to 18 months as planned.
Okay, thank you. The point I'm trying to get to is we've had a very sobering assessment on the condition of our roads. More than 50% of both our sealed and unsealed, if my memory is right, are in a port of very poor. Once we go to a full rebuild of those roads, then we're in strife. And the loan option, as Councillor Ring pointed out, and I believe he mentioned he wants to speak to this, that there's many ways to build savings, efficiencies, as well as understanding whether we use a loan. If we allow the roads behind that to go into a failing or failed condition, I'll probably be talking about a different word, and it's called administration. Because I think as a council, if we're not taking the professional advice of our council officers and the risk profile that we have in our road systems, and essentially sitting there with our hands under ourselves, not wanting to make a hard decision. I made a hard decision to support the SRV, and so did Councillor Staphen and so did Councillor Goodwin. 3 other councillors made the same decision and they weren't re-elected. So people made some hard decisions based on some hard economic facts in the last term. So we need to step up to the issues. I'm not going to write in commentaries about where people's ears are and who, social media and things like that. The reality is, if we ask for a forensic accounting exercise, it's because we believe there is fraud. I'm watching the monthly reports and the detail that's put into those in front of us. None of the items I see in front of us in the notice of motion indicate to me any evidence of fraud. We've got 80-odd thousand sitting in code of conduct, unplanned work, an unplanned budget. We've got now 450 of unplanned. When the people come to the Sports Advisory Committee and say, can you fix the leaking roof? Can we have women's change sheds? Can we fix the retaining wall? Can we sponsor Iron Fest? Can we bring back the community grants? No. There's your money there, folks. It's in those 2 budgets. When we sort out whether there's fraud going on in our organisation, and I understand code of conducts both come from vexatious claimants outside the organisation, as well as councillor and officials in the organisation, we can start putting some of that money back into the community. And that's the snowball that I've got coming down my slope behind me in the Sports Advisory Committee. They want to see action. They don't want no more words. They want to see budget allocated to things. And I'm not convinced that there is the grounds for suspicion of fraud. If there is, there's also a very highly resourced and empowered organisation called ICAC. And I would always encourage people who believe that they are suspecting or seeing corruption to report it to ICAC. And that's available to the public as well. So I won't be supporting this motion.
We're talking about the amendment, though, Councillor Money. Yeah, but you've seconded the amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amendment before I put the amendment? I just want to say a few things. A forensic scientist, a forensic accountant, my understanding is about investigating fraud. I do not see fraud. I have full faith in Director Browning and her team. I have full faith in Councillor Marnie, who's the finance chair. They meet regularly. We get regular reports. I will support the amendment. I must say that the amendment, which is a 6-page, which basically is the report that Director Browning gave us, is extraordinary, and you should be congratulated for the detail and the amount of information in there. It tells me everything I need to know. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? declare the amendment carried. That now becomes the motion. Before I put the motion, you have right of reply as the original mover, Councillor Fredericks.
Look, I try to make it as clear as possible in my opening statement. I don't believe any wrongdoing has been done. But the more dissent that grows outside of these chambers and amongst the community, the louder it is and the harder it is to ignore. I just wanted a solution to shut that all up, to prove that we haven't done anything wrong. We've followed every procedure, we've followed every piece of legislation, every I has been dotted and every T has been crossed. Because it's going to keep going. It's just going to get louder until we actually give them something that's completely unrelated to anything to do with council as proof. That was the point I was trying to get across. I made it exceptionally clear. I did not believe anyone here did anything wrong. It was purely to stop the bullcrap that's getting spread. It's to put an end to wanting us into administration. It's an end to stop calling us all corrupt. Because I don't know about any of you, but I am sick and tired of being told that I am corrupt when I haven't got a single corrupt bone in my body. Where I know I have followed every procedure and piece of legislation. When I know every single staff member has done the exact same thing. And unfortunately, it's those guys up there that cop the brunt of it. I've got big shoulders. I can handle what they say about me. But I don't like what they're saying about the staff members that sacrifice more of their time than they should. This was simply just a way to stop it.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillors, it's the amendment motion. An amendment motion, yes. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Division. A division has been called. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Coleman. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Statham, Councillor Tysos and Councillor Fredericks. Thank you. We go back to the agenda.
Excuse me, I've got a matter arising.
Yeah, sorry, yes, your matter arising.
I'd like to move the following recommendation, that the administration work with the Finance Committee to determine appropriate areas for cost savings during the current year, inclusive of endorsed council projects such as music in the community.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for your matter arising? Councillor Fredericks? Sure, we'll wait for the minute taker. No, it's a matter arising, Councillor Fredericks, from the motion that was just passed, as according to the Code of Meeting Practice.
Would it be inappropriate, Mayor Coleman, for me to make a short statement?
Yes, it would be, Councillor Statham. It's on the screen. Councillor Ring has moved it. Councillor Fredericks, you have seconded it. Councillor Ring?
I think it's imperative that the administration will work with councillors through the Finance Committee to determine where we can make cuts or where we prioritise work, regardless of whether or not something be put up by a council. If the money hasn't been spent at this point in time, it's not committed, we need to make difficult decisions, and we need to own those decisions with the administration, because ultimately they make recommendations, we make the decisions. That's the whole purpose of this.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Fredericks?
Look, I have to agree. We can't go on just thinking that we can pay for this and pay for that. Things are going to have to be cut. I brought it up last month. If it means that we can no longer hold community events unless they are a grant, we no longer hold community grant events unless there is a grant. If that means we have to cut back on all funding to do with anything event-wise, then that's what we have to do. Maybe we do have to go back to basics. Water, waste, rubbish, roads. And if that's what we've got to do, that's what we've got to do. It's time that our community realise we're not an ATM. We haven't been an ATM for a very long time. And when the ATM starts drying up, cuts have to be made. So I guess the community needs to decide, would they prefer rubbish collection to start becoming a monthly thing, or would they prefer to lose a couple of events?
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further commentary? Councillor Money, you actually are the chair of the Finance Committee. Is there anything that you'd like to say in this space?
Look, I'll make one comment. Local government is a diverse and powerful entity if it works with all levels of government. There was talk about handouts from other governments. The federal assistance grant underpins local government in this nation. We've got to advocate to push that up. The state assistance grants now offers an opportunity for a conversation. Councillor Ring and Councillor Fredericks rightly talked that you need to look at your cost savings. Now, they can be done in different ways. We can look at a percentage across the board. I've had that happen to me in the past where you're asked for a 7% saving in your area. It's painful, but it's equal. There's things like salary savings where positions aren't filled immediately. You can look at savings to breach minor things. The events are not going to bring home the backlog of infrastructure work. The money that's involved is 100 million around. Putting 20 grand into Ironfest and not putting 20 grand, putting 100 grand into other community events, at the end of the day isn't going to cut it. If we think that bringing an administrator in, I will contemplate that when I think we're appropriate. We all need to understand the council is then suspended. The councillors stand down, the administrator stands up. The administrator will look at us and go, where's this backlog come from? That's a truck coming down the highway. We can't step out of the way of it. We've got to deal with it. What about your other infrastructure backlogs? The administrator is going to find all the structural financial problems for this council area, starting pretty much from being deemed not fit for future and proceeded to run injured for the next decade. There had to be hard decisions, and yes, there's opportunities to make savings across programs, but we're still going to have a big financial challenge, and I'm happy to keep working at it. I think the council has shown in the last term there were some pretty brave decisions made there to take it forward. So I think there's a lot of emotion impacting this whole conversation. There's a whole lot of opt-in commentaries on social media. You can get small percentages of the community talking to you about very specific issues. Whether they want to put me on the list of councillors to be ridiculed on social media, I'll leave that up to them. I've got to get here and do the business. And I remember Councillor Ring talking to me a lot, and I didn't agree with him all the time, that we're almost like a board of directors. We've got to behave like a board of directors, but we're a little bit more powerful than the local real estate agent / waste collection firm / road engineer firm. If that's what we see the future of local government, let's all just step out of the way and let the administrator in for a while. And but that's not how I saw local government. I didn't put my hand up for this just to step out because we're going to keep going down that roads, rates and rubbish pathway. With local government is significantly better than that, and I sort of hope that's where we're going.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further? Councillor Statham?
Can I ask a question, please? How many staff are now not doing a position? How much money are we saving on that over the last, year?
We'll have to take that on notice, Councillor Statham. Can we come back to you? And it's
Yes,
not actually relevant to the topic, but we're happy to take that on notice. Thank you. Councillor Ring, right of reply?
Yeah. Look, I sort of agree with Councillor Marnie. I sort of don't. We have a big role. We do have a role to provide social services, but it's not our primary role. The community strategic plan is what determines our vision and requirements for the community moving forward. That's why I want the discussion on what cuts are made to be made between councillors and the administration, so we can find a balance. It's not about just saying we're going to cut all of this out because it's all the hairy-fairy stuff and we're just going to do roads and rubbish. We need to find an acceptable balance. We also have massive asset management backlogs. which we need to look at addressing. And if we don't address them, the cost gets bigger and the problem in the future increases for future councils. We have to actually have to act responsibly and make hard decisions. They won't be populist, they won't be popular, but we have to make it. That's why we get paid the big bucks.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that. Councillor Tyson, would you like your name recorded? Okay, so all those in. Yeah, no problem. Councillor's division has been called. I'll put it to you. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Coleman. Against? Councillor Marnie. Councillor Tysus. I apologise. Councillor Tysus. The matter's been carried. We go back to the agenda. It's 2.8, Code of Conduct Statistics. Any motions, councillors, or who would like to move what's on the page? You're moving what's on the page. Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Who would like to second that? Councillor Marnie, second it. Councillor Fredericks.
Look, I think the numbers speak for themselves. 20 code of conducts reported to the year to September. 10 of them put forward for a reviewer. 2 have been assessed. 9 were investigated by a conduct reviewer. Only 2 have found to be unsubstantiated. 1 found to be substantiated had a recommendation. Another referred to council for an alternative solution. Like $86,000 for 20 code of conducts, and we've only had 2 found to be substantiated. $86,000 and 2 out of 20 found to be substantiated. All I have to say is to the ratepayers, that's your money being spent to investigate 20 code of conducts and to find 2 substantiated.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie.
Look, pretty much concur with the end of that statement, Councillor Fredericks. In a principle with due process and procedural fairness, if somebody has a vexatious claim made against them, they deserve the right for it to be investigated or defended or so on. It bothers me that we have so many groups in our community desperately want very small things from us at council. And I'm sure, I talked to the sports advisory, we've just about got it covered in that figure. We get asked continuously, less words, more actions, people. You know what we need, you know what we want. The only things that are in our circle of control are our own behaviours. So that's all we can help to contribute towards this. The behaviour of people out in the community towards councillors, I haven't had anything come at me, fortunately, and I appreciate when it happens to councillors. I'll watch some very unsubstantiated claims get thrown around at councillors and previous councillors that are completely unfair. And we're in that sort of setting, and it's hard to defend those things. So we can't control our community. We hope that our community will help to manage the way we communicate to each other, but we can manage our own behaviour. That's the only thing that's in our circle of control. So I find it frustrating. I'm not on any angelical pedestal. I do the best I can, but I know that I've been elected as a public official, and as a public official, I've got responsibilities on how I behave. If I'm not up for that, it's time for me to step down and do something else. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any further commentary? If not, Councillor Evangelides, sorry, and Councillor Statham, I believe.
Yeah, a complete and utter waste of money, clearly. I wonder if there was a way or a change in legislation where the people making complaints were recorded, how many there'd be. I'd almost say there'd be 0. They hide in the shadows. Hypocrites. They know who they are. This is a
Point of
waste
order.
of money.
Point
Thank
of
you,
order.
Councillor. If he's finished, Councillor Tysus. Councillor Statham.
Point of order. He needs to withdraw those comments because
Yep.
he's talking about the complainants.
Okay, please withdraw at this stage, Councillor Evangelides.
What? Sorry, what am I withdrawing?
You talked about complainants. Just withdraw and apologise at this stage, if you could,
I was
please.
just giving my opinion what I'd like.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're calling complainants.
You're calling complainants. You need to withdraw and apologise at this stage.
Okay, I'll withdraw and apologise.
Thank you. Councillor Statham.
Yes, Councillor Coleman, there was a matter last year, or maybe if not before that, that there was several codes of conduct in on this particular person. And
Councillor Statham, can I just bring the councillors back to the item that we're actually debating? This is the Code of Conduct statistics. This is not regarding anybody's personal code of conduct or anybody else's code of conduct. This is about the statistics. We can't go into detail in regards to anybody else's code of conduct or code of conduct in the future or in the past. We need to stick to what's in front of us in regards to the report.
absolutely, and that's just what I'm doing, thank you. There was several complaints put in about a certain person, and there was much, there was a lot of conversation over a few months that was supposed to be confidential. And then I believe, I don't know whether these stats are in this particular situation or not.
I don't think it is, Councillor Statham.
Well, just let me finish, please. You have no idea what I'm going to say. And if you do, I wonder why. So,
Councillor Statham, that is an act of disorder. Please withdraw that commentary.
happy to withdraw, but
Thank
I'll
you.
continue. Thank
Please
you.
continue to stay on what we're discussing.
I'm absolutely happy
Great.
to do
Thank
that.
you. Then
I
continue
would
on.
like to receive information if those two people, one person, actually got to eventually be interviewed, so that we know that that is a stat that was not done. So, you know,
This is
I
about
think-
statistics only.
No, but could you please let me listen? And then when the announcement was made, that person had moved from that company because the person would be interviewed, refused to be interviewed, and we were almost all told that, you know, there was a discrepancy, this shouldn't have occurred. And then at the end of the day, strangely enough, the man that was looking into it had gone from the company. Thank you.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Councillor Statham.
Well, I'd like to know if privately. No? Right. Well, what a disgrace.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. We're
I'm
talking
surprised
about
you don't, Councillor Coleman.
Councillor Statham.
I didn't say anything wrong.
Councillor Statham, we're talking about statistics only.
Yes, exactly. Those two, that statistic should have been on.
Well, it's not in the report.
No, funny about that.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Councillor Ring.
The code of conduct allows for or prescribes the behaviour that we all should adhere to. Meetings can get hot, heated, it stays in the chamber. You don't make it personal. And there are vexatious complaints, but they have a right to make them. And it's up to the general manager or the appropriate staff member to flush them down wherever they need to go. You don't have to accept vexatious complaints. All complaints should be thoroughly investigated if they're legitimate. And I do know that the Minister for Local Government is struggling with a review of the Code of Conduct, particularly with pecuniary interests and how to address those. Because let's face it, you live in a country town, you know everyone. We need something sensible there. But at the moment, all I'm going to add is, I said at the beginning of the term, if councils have issues with each other or with the general manager, they should sit down and talk. Either ask the mayor, the general manager to mediate. We shouldn't be wasting our resources on internal complaints amongst each of us. Don't have to like each other. We just have to work together as best we can. And that will have its bumps and its hurdles and its heated moments. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't be wasting our resources fighting each other. Have the fight in the chamber. Have the argument on the policy. But anything else, let's just get mediation. Sit down and chew the fat. What the public do, that's up to them. What we do is up to us.
Councillor Statham, thank you for your commentary. Thank you, Councillor Ring, for your commentary. Councillor Fredericks, I'm going to bring back to you for your right of reply.
Well, it's just one of those situations. We're always going to have people that don't agree with what we say or what we do, and they're going to go out of their way to make it hard for us. It's just part and parcel. Although I wouldn't mind possibly finding a way to advocate to Office of Local Government to make the code of conduct more clearer to help filter this type of thing and make it easier for the administration that have got to process through it. Perhaps maybe suggest they put in examples so that way when people are reading our code of conduct, they will be able to make a semi decision on whether or not what they're reporting actually is a breach or whether it's not. So maybe advocacy from council in giving them ideas on how to make our code of conduct clearer instead of just leaving it up for interpretation like it currently is.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. I'll put that. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. We're up to 2.9, proposed road programs, conditions of local road networks. Is there any motions?
Yep, I'd like to move this. I've got several amendments.
Yep.
I have printed out copies for councillors because it will take some time. Possibly we could have a 5-minute break so people can read.
We've had a break recently.
Okay,
just
that's
pushed
fine.
through.
Only asking. Okay.
Do you have a seconder?
Well, I think I'll read it out first. That's why I've given everyone a copy so I can read it out and provides them the opportunity and whether or not they want to second it. That Council 1 acknowledges the need to act decisively to address the backlog of roadworks over the shortest possible duration to avoid escalating costs and to enhance public safety. 2, that given the 2024-25 financial result impact on Council's cash flow, that further financial modelling is undertaken to determine the most opportune timing for an accelerated program. 3, develop and incorporate a maintenance strategy for sealed roads, specifically potholes and drains, and that the strategy assessed within the long-term financial plan. 4, endorse the development of a governance framework such as engagement of external project auditor or quality assurance expert to independently check the status of project delivery. 5, approve the publication of the draft road renewal program to internal stakeholders, councillors and the community. 6, acknowledge the current funding gap and direct that the gap be reflected in the upcoming Transport Asset Management Plan and long-term financial plan. 7, review the purpose for which funds were raised for the special rate variation to determine if additional funds can be redirected to roads maintenance under Section 508 of the New South Wales Local Government Act 1993. And 8, commit to ongoing advocacy for alternate funding sources, including grants.
Is there a second? I'm happy to second this.
Then I'll talk to it, Mayor. In principle, I stated in a previous meeting, I'm not opposed to borrowing money, but at this point in time, I don't think we should. I think there's more information that's needed moving forward. I don't think we should shy away from borrowing money if we can work ourselves into a better financial position and enhance our cash flow position. If we take a longer view for roads maintenance, the cost is just going to escalate. We need to deal decisively. This is why I want to ensure that there's adequate funding in the budget for ongoing maintenance, potholes, drainage clearance. It is required. It is essential. And the community want this. This is one of the feedbacks I've had from the community. Road service, I get where Mr. Edgecombe's coming from. I understand now the need to surface roads that have got alligator cracking. It's a long-term strategy to reduce our long-term costs. I understand it. The community wants the big potholes filled. They want a better deal. We've got 2 machines. They should be working full-time. I don't know how much that costs. That's why I want to take at least another 12 months to work through all the costs, all the impacts, all the cuts to determine a position moving forward. And at no time will we ever be borrowing $20 million in one hit. We'll only be borrowing, if we do go down that path, on an annual basis, on amount recommended by the staff, and we as councillors will make a determination on each year. I think this is the best way forward with the roads network. We have to make a decision. This gives time for Mr. Edgecombe for the next financial year to get tender packages ready, so he can go to the tender before the end of the financial year potentially, or the beginning of the new financial year, to ensure these works happen in an expeditious manner. But moving forward, how do we enhance, how do we speed up this process? Will there be other grants coming on? Will the FAG grant get finally increased to 1%, yet again raised at the local government conference? Is advocacy with the local roads minister going to help us? I don't know, but we need to look at all those and put them into the picture. At the moment, we just need to take a step back and work out a very good strategy moving forward that we're all comfortable with and that is fiscally responsible. We owe that to the community, but we do need to take decisive action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rim. I supported this because we do need to go steady as we go, and we definitely need a budget. I know that when I sit in the finance committees with the, Councillor Marty's the chair, and Councillor Ring's there, and Councillor Evangelita's there, and Councillor Goodwin's there, and Councillor Frederick's there, that's often raised. Where's your budget? And so that needs to be done. I also want to see the result of the advocacy raised in the previous item in regards to the $7.2 million that was not forthcoming, and that will, we're currently working on that. So that is why I supported and second this motion. But I do understand that the director would like to make a comment, and I'll let you do that on the back of that.
Thank you very much, Mayor Coleman, and through you. Firstly, I'll start with an apology to Councillor Ring. He made every attempt to workshop this with the administration, but had some family issues today and wasn't able to do that. But I just want to raise one particular issue as I see it. The original recommendation suggests that Council endorses option A, an accelerated renewal program strategy with the inclusion of an additional $20 million in funding required to support an increase in Council's planned capitals and Seal Road renewal program over the next 6 years. The amendment requires that we publicise a draft road renewal program to councillors in the community, but there was also suggestion in the discussion that we start getting packages ready. To do both of those things, we need a direction from the council as to which way they want to go, option A or option B or something in between. I need direction from the council as to the strategy. It doesn't have to come with a funding allocation. It can be absent of that. We can consider funding allocations on a yearly basis as the council deliberates its draft operational plan. But I need guidance and direction as to how you want me to proceed. Do you want me to proceed on the assumption that we're going to use grants and other forms of revenue generation savings and the like to try and match that backlog figure, and we go with option A and we consider those on a yearly basis? Or do we take a slower approach, I guess if I can call it that, and just focus on the 12 million? So that's what I'm asking. We need, in my view, my recommendation is that we need to resolve on a strategy before we start engaging with the community. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit hollow.
Thank you, Director Edgecombe. Councillor Ring, is there some way you'd like to modify the motion, taking on that feedback?
I'm prepared to take the feedback on. In principle, I do support option A. but I would not support borrowing money at this time until the subsequent financial modelling. So I'm happy to put that in as an additional point, unless it can be worked in one of the others. Possibly just as an additional point that council supports in principle option A, and that any borrowing is determined by council on an annual basis. Final decision will be us, but I still won't support it for the next financial year in terms of borrowing. I believe we need additional information, including maintenance, but if that clarifies our position to provide a strategic position, that's fine. But ultimately, we will make a determination each year, reviewing the budget, on how we move forward and how much is borrowed. So, yeah, I'm happy that going is another point.
Did the minute taker get that?
Question, me.
Yes, Councillor Tysos.
I think that last one contradicts the other 8. I don't think you can put that last one in. You can't put an option in if you're going to do all that 1 to 8.
Director Edgecombe.
Might I suggest something simpler in that we just take a point 2 as endorse option A, accelerated road renewal program strategy. Full stop.
Councillor Ring.
I still think you're in the same boat.
Look, I don't think advocating for alternative sources of funding actually works in opposition. Because if the staff and the mayor is not advocating for grants for the roads, they're not doing their job. It's that simple.
And I'm happy to do my job.
Yes, I believe you are, but as part of our job moving forward, we need to see grants. Grants are drying up. But we just can't sit here and say we're not going to do anything. So,
leave it as is.
Look, I'm happy to endorse option A, subject to adequate financial modelling and council making a decision on an annual basis. So I'm happy to modify it to that.
Okay. Just wait for.
Because I do believe Director Edgecombe's right. I hate to admit it, but that's not personal.
Councillor Ring.
I'm sorry. It's a long night. We've got to have levity. And his wife gave me permission.
Councillor Ring.
I'm bad.
You need to get some guidance, Mayor, in regards to what it is, because I think you can't have those 8 things and then put option A in. It doesn't work with the other 8.
Yeah, okay.
Two contrary things.
Director Edgecombe, sorry, it's getting long. Director Edgecombe, your comments on that, and then Director Browning, I'd like your comments on that as well. Let's come over here.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, my thoughts are that by endorsing an option and then retaining the 8 points, basically says, well, this is our direction, but we're expecting the administration to equally prioritise a maintenance strategy to support our assets in the meantime, but also progress all other opportunities to leverage additional revenue streams that aren't loans to the extent possible, whether that's advocacy, whether it's savings, whether it's reprioritisation and the like. So I think that they're complementary. I don't think they stand in opposition to each other.
Thank you. Director Browning?
Through Mayor Coleman, I agree. Additionally, with point 6, going with a $16 million roads program will just change the funding gap to be addressed within the TAMP and the long LTFP. So it's just whether it's 12 million or 16 million, and the rest are, as Director Edgecombe said, are complementary. Just increases the oversight and the governance applied.
Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, I disagree, because if it talks about accelerated renewal, it's got the objective and everything there. The only option you can put in this 8 dot points is option B.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Councillor Tysos, or you can put up an amendment if you like. Is there any further debate? Councillor Fredericks?
Well, I fully understand the urgency behind the attempt to get this 20 million loan pushed through and for us to accept it. Our roads are not great, and they're just going to get worse. I hate to say it, hopefully, if we do start going into a drought period, some of the rain damage might just be delayed for a couple of years. Fingers crossed. But we need to have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed before we even contemplate such a big loan. We need to know exactly where we can make cuts, how much that cut is going to be, and the ramifications that cut will have on our functions and operations. We do need a very long, in-depth, detailed report about where such cuts can be made. And I don't think it would be wise for us to rush in to getting such a large loan when realistically, when you break that 20 million down over 6 years, it's 3,333,000 a year for the roads. If we can start doing smaller loans each year around that amount, it's still pretty much doing what we're aiming to do with the $20 million loan, but in smaller increments. So that way, if we become a little bit more financially unstable, we're not signed up to the loan repayments and the interest for the full 20 million. We will be able to juggle what way we go at each financial year. And I think that would be a lot smarter in the short term for this council and for the staff.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further commentary on this? Yes, Councillor Evangelides.
Yeah, I mean, the management have addressed things that probably should have been addressed a long time ago. The implementation of the mapping is absolutely fantastic. I think we need to be as aggressive as possible. There isn't anyone in Lithgow that doesn't complain about the roads or doesn't want their road fixed or, understand the fact that roads are major here. I want to obviously support option A, but I think we need to be aggressive with this. There's absolutely no point in doing everything that the management have done unless they are given the opportunity to follow through. I agree with Councillor Ring to do it in stages each year, and for that council to vote on it would be prudent. But I do feel we needed to be a little bit aggressive with this and not too conservative.
Thank you, Councillor Evangelides. Councillor Staker?
Yes, I think that borrowing $20 million at the moment without a really plan that will suit that amount of money is probably not real. I would love to see an improvement program of when this occurs, that it will have an improvement in the fact that it will last. I think what's happened is we've had lots of storms. It's been very difficult for the engineering department, and I totally respect that. However, in future, when we do decide to do something, I suggest, as much as the residents will be against it to start off with, we should do it in like an improvement program where you can go away then and leave it for several years without coming back and doing patching all the time. Because this is, quite, at the moment we don't have a choice, but this is absolutely necessary to start somewhere and do some things in a manner where we're not going to be called back to do it regularly. And I think the quality is far more important than quantity.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Coleman. I'm happy with the amendment. My concern is that we want to enhance our cash flow, but we keep saying no to new businesses. So that's my concern.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Any further commentary? Councillor Ring, you're right to reply.
Just that looking at the special rate variation, whether or not funds can be redirected, I think is something that needs to be addressed. It hasn't to this date. The whole idea of this program is to improve the roads to a standard that once they're done, we don't have to come back for 10 years, maybe 20 years. We're doing work at a higher level than we've ever done, and it's about time. And bringing Shepherd on board was probably the best thing that we ever did. We also have that equipment now, so we can go out. The staff can go out and record the condition of the roads on a regular basis, annually, 6 months, whatever. We can have up-to-date information. One thing I do want to explore in the next infrastructure meeting is whether or not that the technology allows us to go, right, we've got X amount of potholes, or where are the worst potholes? I don't know, but we need to look at it. We need to be maybe not so much aggressive, but as responsible fiscally in how we approach this, both not to stretch our cash flow issues, not to overburden council with unnecessary debt, but also to avoid excessive costs in the future. We may not be here, but others will be. And we need to do it in a prudent manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Evangelides, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Coleman. All those against? Councillor Tysus, and Councillor Fredericks wasn't in the room. Thank you. Carried. We're up to 2.10, which is submission draft Central West Orana Strategic Regional Integration Transport Plan. Do I have a mover for or a motion, councillors? We're on page 65. The motion's on page 66. I'm happy to move it, but I think there needs to be changes. Yeah, no, Councillor Martin, if you're happy to move it, I'm happy to second it. But there's a few issues that I have with this report. So, Councillor Martin, are you happy to move it? Yeah. I'm happy to second it. All right. I'm happy to move the recommendation, but there's a few issues. Councillors, are you right? Councillor Tysus, you look a bit lost. Are you okay? You right? Everybody's right? Okay. Councillor Marnie, would you like to speak to that first? Councillor Marnie, we can't hear you.
Sorry, my apologies, Mayor. I'm happy to move the motion. I won't talk to it in great detail. There's a couple of points. I think the whole signalisation of the highway is an imminent issue, particularly in the South Bowenfelds area. So the discussion around Coldrew Drive, we have had numerous conversations about Marangaroo and access into the Great Western Highway. Certainly there's been extensive advocacy from people in the community and councillors about improved inner city rail frequency, and so there's all the key inclusions that have value. I know there's issues about whether Marangaroo is the housing opportunity to unlock, whether there's a desire there with the landholders. But certainly I think there's been a lot of discussion around how we manage the highway strip between Tunnel Hill and the on-ramp down onto the highway and through to South Bowenfelds and to McCain's Falls Road and into the new section of highway. So I'm happy to move it to start the conversation, and yep.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Look, I note that the report mentions the Great Western Highway Tunnel. I have issues with that. The reality is that the federal government and the state government have pulled the funding, and we need to focus on what we can actually achieve. And a tunnel is only going to be effective if it goes from under Mount Victoria and comes out at West Katoomba. They need to deal with the bottleneck at Blackheath and Medlow Bar first before they even look at a tunnel from, say, at the bottom of Mount Vic all the way through to Lithgow. I have issues in regards to the report mentioning that. We need to focus on the Bells Liner Road or potential expressway, which this council has actually endorsed and support. We need to focus on rail, and we need to focus on definitely on the crossings in the Lithgow CBD and safer links between a hospital and an aged care precinct. But I do have issues in regards to the tunnel being referenced. I understand where the staff are coming from, but let's be realistic. It's the funding's not there. And so we need to focus on what we can actually achieve. And the state government has mentioned the Bells Line Expressway. That's what we need to focus on. But that's just my opinion. Any further commentary?
Yeah, I'd like to move an additional point.
To move.
That the council submission prioritises rail infrastructure and rail interconnectivity between the villages of Lithgow LGA, Bathurst and Orange.
Happy. I'm happy to. I mean, the mover might accept it, Councillor Martin.
Yeah.
You're happy to accept that, and I'm happy to accept
I think that's really critical for economic growth, for tourism, and getting people off the road, being able to jump trains to go out to Orange or Bathurst. There's some great specialists in Orange, and being able to jump the train, particularly if you don't drive, that's a great way to go. So I think it's really critical it's in there. I think if you're not happy with the tunnel, I'm not real keen on the tunnel because politically it's not going to happen. It should be excluded.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, but it's up to the mover. We'll wait for
I'll let the other councillors
speak. Yep.
Their views for.
Is there any further commentary on this? It's a submission. Yep, Councillor Evangelides.
I think we should leave the tunnel aspect in.
I agree with that.
We
definitely.
never know when things are going to change, and to not advocate for a tunnel. Clearly, a tunnel is the best solution, but to leave that out, it seems crazy to me. So keep on with the tunnel. I mean, some say it's never going to happen. Who knows? But I think we should always promote the tunnel.
Yep, no problem. Councillor Fredericks.
Well, I'll be honest, there are things that we should be advocating for and things that we should just be letting go. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with the tunnel. It's literally from Lithgow to the other side of Hartley. It's not hitting where the problem is. The problem isn't this side. The problem is from Mount Vic up to Lura. That's where all the bottlenecks happen. That's the part of the road that needs to be addressed. Not down here near Hartley, not down here near Lithgow. And yeah, I say we really advocate for the Bells Line Expressway. It'd probably be cheaper in the long run.
I'd agree with that comment. But Director Edgecombe, did you want to make some comments?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, plans change and it was a moving beast, but the previous scope for the tunnel was portals both where the Little Hartley works currently are and the Medlow Bath works currently are. So the tunnel was going to bridge those two areas. So it was directly going to address the Mount Victoria and Blackheath challenges. Yeah. So it was going to be Little Hartley to Medlow Bath.
And see, I know I've already spoken, but that's my bone of contention. It shouldn't be from Hartley. It should be from Mount Vic all the way to West Katoomba. We need to deal with that part of the section first. If we're going to lobby for a tunnel, then they need to focus on from Mount Vic to West Katoomba, heading east. That's where the problem is. That's where it needs to be addressed. That's my opinion. Is there any further commentary? Councillor Marnie?
Just point 4, if Trinity could just add Bathurst and Orange.
Well, Bathurst and Orange.
Thank you.
Is there any further debate until I hand it over to Councillor Marnie?
No, look, I'm conscious of my other role, so I won't make a commentary on the Blue Mountains section of the highway. The only comment I'd make is if you want to see where the greatest challenge to consistent travel time, 2:00 on a Sunday, pack your lunch or your dinner, in fact, and drive to Katoomba. And I'll leave the evidence to present itself to the councillors.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We move on to 2.11, and I'll move the recommendation with an added point, and the item is review of Lithgow water outage October 2025. I've got an extra point that I'd like to add to the existing recommendation.
Depending on the point, I'm happy to do it because I've got a point I'd like to add as well.
All right, well, we'll just then we've got
It's a supplementary
paper. She's got it. We've all got it. We've got it. It's good. We've got it. Is the extra point up? Have we got the extra point up? That's all right. That's my extra point. You happy to still second that, Councillor?
Yes, I am. What I would like to do, if I could, is add another point, and that is that the development of an implementation plan and resourcing strategy are referred to both the Infrastructure and Finance Committee and ARIC for input and review.
Sure. Has that been given to the minute taker?
It has.
Have you got that? Wait for that to come up. Great, thank you. So I'm moving that, and Councillor Ring has seconded that.
Mayor, are you interested in a point 5?
Depends on what it is, Councillor.
And the point 5 is that it was similar to what I wrote at the last council meeting. That I compliment you, commend you on your point 3, but if we can go with a point 5, that not you, but the council provide an unreserved public apology to those Lithgow City Council employees who may have felt any personal blame or humiliation following the water outage. I think it's not only to the, I commend you on the point 3 for the public, but I think the staff should be receive and recognised with an unreserved public apology that if there was any harm done to them.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. You have any problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that, Matt.
No, okay.
Yeah, that it's the council, not the mayor, but the council. Number 5 is council provide an unreserved public apology to those Lithgow City Council employees who may have felt any personal blame, or humiliation. And you've got during the water outage, during and after the water outage. So during and after.
Yep, you're happy to accept that as a seconder. I'm happy to accept that as the mover. Okay, you're good to go? All right, we've all got the report in front of us. I think it's important that we have the report to understand what actually occurred on the 8th through to the 16th of October. I'm actually going to read out the apology now. I think it's important that we deal with this tonight, that we resolve it tonight. So I've got my apology written here, so I'll read it out. On behalf of the council, I and the General Manager apologise to the residents and the businesses of Lithgow that were impacted in a variety of ways through the communicating of incorrect information from council during the water outage in early October. I am aware of the distress and the confusion that the incorrect messaging on the time that the water would be resupplied to customers caused. Council will do better in providing accurate information to our residents and businesses in the future. When this was brought up at the last council meeting, and I said then, and I'll say now, I'm more than happy to apologise, but I needed to know what I was going to apologise for. That's why the report had to be done. The report provides us with an opportunity to improve, and I think that's really important. So I want to thank the director who did the report. I want to thank the staff that contribute to the report, and hopefully in the future we will get better. Councillor Ring?
Yep, like you, I'd like to commend Director Elwood for the work he's done on this report. It hasn't been easy. I'd like to thank the staff for contributing to it. It was never intended, it was a debrief, it was never intended to be, let's find someone to blame, let's blame an entity, let's blame a person. That was never the intent. The intent was to look at the structural issues underlying the problem and to work towards resolving them. If the staff don't have the knowledge, they don't have the tools to do their job, we hit disasters. At infrastructure meeting on the 22nd of October, it was resolved that a proposal on the water asset note program will be developed for council's consideration. This needs to be escalated. We need to get this work done as a priority. There are fundamental flaws in how we've managed and how we've resourced the staff to do the work. We need to resolve it. It's not a blame game. Let's just fix the problem. Let's see what we need and get on with the job. Unfortunately, Western culture is too fixated on blaming people rather than just going, well, there's the problem, here's the solution. And that's what we should be doing as a council.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Goodwin?
That's very important, but I look at it like this. We've got the roads that are extremely important, the water that's extremely important. Where do we put our money? And we're talking about the $20 million over 6 years. Do we put that money towards water as well? We need all our water infrastructure and pipes all redone. It's a huge job, and that's why we need to come together at a certain point, talk about both of the issues. And there's probably more. The waste is another thing as well. So, I mean, there's holes in everywhere where we're going to lose money somewhere. That's all I wanted to say in relation to.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin.
Can I just ask a question, please, for you, Mayor, to
Sure.
the Director of Finance?
Yep.
Just based on what Councillor Goodwin was saying, could she please advise the restrictions on the certain accounts that we have? There is the general account, but the other accounts, sewer, water, what the restrictions are and how they relate to each other.
Director Browning?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. So there's an opportunity to be able to fund borrowings or funding sources through adjustments in annual charges relating to waste, water and sewer. Obviously with rates, general rates, we're capped by the rates peak each year. Hence why we have not the same flexibility we do have in those avenues.
Does that suffice, Councillor Ring?
Yeah, but basically the water accounts are self-sufficient. If they borrow money, they pay it back out of the water. That's basically what, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ring. Any further debate? Councillor Marnie?
I want to thank the staff involved. I'm sure there were a lot of staff that of the Director Elwood's names on this, and the thing I appreciate that you've looked at the legacy issues, you looked at systems.
Hang on, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Fredericks, you okay? Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Okay, all right. You looked at systems improvement. You looked at enabling staff to feel comfortable giving advice through the system. Local government historically is a very hierarchical beast. Increasingly, it's getting better at that, and I appreciated that we had a look at that. Councillor Goodwin speaks correctly about the issues for us that we're going to have some big ticket items, and regional water is essential to regional cities sustaining themselves. So if we have to get this right, we have to get our storage systems right, we have to get our predictions right, we'll expand regional cities in front of our actual secure water supply, only to find ourselves in deep drought, and then we're in strife. We're fortunate, a good portion of our water comes out of groundwater out of the Newlands Plateau, which is a lot more sustainable. I also like that the report basically was clearly stated where we didn't meet where we should be. So, you know, there's breaches of the New South Wales Health Act and Australian drinking water guidelines. We've got to look at that. We can't step away from the reality of what's happened. Whether we got the parts, I know. I actually remember Councillor Ring talking about this about 2 terms ago. I'm a little bit obsessed with a few service areas. So unfortunately, for you 2 gentlemen in the corner, it's you guys. But it's having the parts in the background, so when we do have a catastrophic failure, that we're not waiting on someone to come in from America or somewhere. And so I was very appreciative. Obviously, we had a first up event, which was how do we restart the water treatment plant when we're down to 0 water or near to. So the whole investment, and thank you, Director Browning, with regards to the water fund's a separate entity. And I apologise that I didn't ask the questions on notice so you're in a position to answer them. But I understand there has been borrowings in the past in the water fund to bring forward capital works, essential capital works. So I thought also the communication around the over-reliance on Facebook. We see Facebook at times as the pinnacle communication. The reality, a lot of people don't opt in to even be part of Facebook, let alone our page. So how we got to those vulnerable communities, how we got to our neighbours, it was nice to see that coming forward in the process where people like the PCYC and Walgam Water, Wild Water, they all started stepping in to say, here we are, we're Lithgow and this is how we do things. So that was good. So very detailed report. I'm very happy as an individual councillor to apologise to the community. The system's failings are part of legacy issues. They're part, but as Councillor Ring says, and I concur, they're now my responsibility and the other 8 councillors' responsibilities. We need to address all of those findings out of this. Reports like this that are well done often get put in the back of a shelf and then they're never actually actioned. So I've got confidence that this isn't going to be one of those, and that we'll start to move forward on that. So again, I apologise for the impact it had on people, and particularly people in more vulnerable settings.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Evangelides and then Councillor Fredericks.
Yes, unlike the roads, it's really hard to see the faults underground. How we react to it, obviously, is a lot will be learnt from this. The communication, something else that we'll learn a lot from. Doing the report is a great acknowledgement, and apology is a great acknowledgement as well. But yeah, I think the community and the council will learn a lot from this event, be able to respond better next time. But yeah, I appreciate the report.
Thank you, Councillor Evangelides. Councillor Fredericks.
Well, the report did let us know things that we didn't know before the water outage. The water plant can't drop below a certain point, otherwise we're going to have issues. We didn't know that. We now do. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We can look back and go, maybe we should have had things come in at an earlier point, but there's nothing we can do to go back and change that. One thing I do want council to look into is something similar to the emergency texting system that New South Wales does have for fire warnings, missing people, that kind of thing. So that way, when situations like this, we do have another alternative in informing people directly to their phones. I know not everyone has a phone, but it will reduce the amount of people that are not informed. I don't know what committee that needs to go to have that discussion open up. But I think it is something that this council need to lead the way in having an emergency broadcasting system directly to the community's phones. So that way, in instances like this, everyone who can be updated regularly is updated regularly.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further debate on this? No? I'll do a right of reply. Sorry, you do a right. Look, I agree that we need to look at certain avenues of communications. We need to look at sending a text or an app. We need to be able to have a register of those who want to be door knocked. We need to have a mini call centre set up so that they can call in. We need to ensure that, you know, when the button needs to be pushed, it needs to be pushed now, not tomorrow. But we will learn from that and we will work on that. And I'm very grateful to the staff who contributed to the report. So thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you.
I'd like to move a procedural motion if I could, Mayor.
Sure. What would you like to move?
I'd like to move an adjournment of the meeting. We've talked about setting time limits on the meeting. It's 10:37. You beat me before. I'm going to beat you this time. Instead of talking about it, we actually got to do it. There's about 7 or 8 items left. That's going to take an hour and a half at least, if we're honest.
Yeah, you're moving.
I think if there's any
Can I
urgent,
move a different procedural
Hang
motion?
on, I've got one. Let's one procedural motion at a time, please. So, Councillor Wing, you're moving a procedural motion that we move an adjournment to. Okay. I don't need a second of procedural, do I? No. Okay. I'll put that to you. All those in favour of?
I've got something
I want to
as
speak.
well.
I wanted to move a procedural motion that we limit the we need to nip this in the bud. I don't want to leave this for another meeting before Christmas. I think we just need to say, instead of 5 minutes, 1 minute. Everyone gets 1 minute to talk. If you can't talk it in 1 minute, it ain't worth it. There's not that much on the agenda that we can't finish if we just go with 1 minute talks.
Well, I've got a procedural motion that I have to put. So we move it to an adjournment. My understanding that's in the code of meeting practice. You did want to say something before I put it?
I was going to say we finish the meeting at 11. We look at what is urgent that we need to do, and the things that aren't urgent on the meeting, we move to either the next meeting in January. I don't think they're urgent that needs to be brought before the council before January. If it is, we deal with it tonight, right now, and then we finish up at 11.
I've still got a procedure. I understand what you're saying. I've still got a procedural motion that I have to put, unfortunately. So I'll put the motion that we end tonight and we re-adjourn at a later date. So I'll put that. All those in favour? The procedure motion has been carried. We now adjourn and we'll set another meeting date and time for a later date. Thank you. Good night.